You set foot on foreign soil. Only this land isn't ruled by any country or government. In this land, we celebrate music. In this land, we celebrate games. In this land, we celebrate those who compose video game music. Welcome to the VG Embassy. Welcome and thanks for tuning in to another episode of the VG Embassy. This is a show centered around video game music and the amazing online community of fans and podcasters that enjoy it. My name's Ed, and on each episode, I'll take the role of Prime VGM Minister and invite a guest VG Ambassador, or three, onto the show to share with us their own video game music culture. Or I may share a part of my culture on a solo show. And yes, it is a big show this week. I've got three amazing VG Ambassadors with me. One, a repeating VG Ambassador from last episode. Logan, how are you? I think that means good. Emily Keegliff, welcome back. And newcomer, the ReNesance. Tim, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Excellent. We have kazoos with us.
If you couldn't tell yet, there are kazoos here.
And it's been a very kazooey evening before we've started recording this show, so...
There's a reason for this. This
yes.
isn't completely random, but we'll get into that.
Stay tuned to the end after all our picks are done, and we'll have some fun with some kazooey goodness. So, Emily, how have you been?
I've been well. Thanks for having me on the show again. Always love to be here in person.
It's awesome considering that you're living in California now. And
I know.
You've made it all the way across the country to be at my embassy. So
it's true.
I am
came
humbled
here
and
just
honored.
for you. Yes. So I flew over for the holidays to see my family and managed to squeeze in a trip down here to the embassy. So just very happy to have been able to fit it in.
Excellent. And so, Tim, you and Emily have been online friends for a while now.
Pals.
And so she told you about my show, and you were like, so how can I get into the embassy?
Yep.
So she snuck you in the back door, basically.
That's why
right,
I befriended her, actually. I did my research.
What?
Yeah. I figured this is a good time to tell you.
Oh, so betrayed. So betrayed.
No, I met her just through streaming. We were both streamers, obviously, on Twitch and stuff, so... Made fast friends, and then, she told me she was going to be back on the East Coast. She mentioned the podcast, and she was like, do you want to do the show? I was like, yeah.
Awesome.
So here I am. I'm thrilled. Yeah, thank you.
Very
for having
cool.
me.
So,
Also very passionate about VGM. So
yeah, exactly.
that's where
So
this whole thing comes together.
speaking of which, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do on your streams?
Okay, so, I do 3 streams weekly. 2 of them are gaming streams. Tuesday nights I'll do more computer-based games, which I play on the computer, as you might imagine.
Wow.
That's how I...
Well, very
call it
similar
that.
to what Emily's been doing, too, with the Apple II
Exactly.
stuff.
Mine's a bit more advanced, but
It's true.
I knew
Yes,
you
it's
were
but
true.
not
going to
as
say
cool.
that.
But not as cool. DOS games, I started because I really wanted to get back to King's Quest games and things like that.
Nice.
But I started streaming just on NES stuff, so I'll do those Wednesday nights. And then Saturday nights I do painting streams, because I make paintings, landscape paintings based on video game scenery and settings and things like that.
Very, very cool.
Yep.
And I've watched a couple of your streams like after the fact. I haven't been able to do any live ones, but they've been a lot of fun. I've watched a little bit of your Street Fighter 2010.
2010,
Yeah, that was
that one.
that was a lot of fun.
That was rough.
Oh, I really liked Drill Master 5000. Was it?
Drill Master 5000.
He was like one of the enemies that would keep chasing you.
There were a lot of enemies.
Yeah,
that were
no,
chasing
he
me,
was.
like,
I
Ren
just
is
happened to be
possibly blacking out some
Yeah,
of that,
yeah.
that stream. That was a rough
a little
one.
bit of
That was a rough
PTS
one.
there.
Yeah, a little bit.
But fun. Always fun. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and always retro. You do some of the newer retro aesthetic things, but
Yeah. Like on the Tuesday nights, I'll do like emulate. Basically, I'll do like I'm doing Celeste pretty soon. I did Shovel Knight, but yeah, on Wednesday nights it's just retro. It's just NES stuff. Although I just got a Super NT So I'll start Super Nintendo now. So
Oh,
that's
cool.
a blast into the future.
Awesome.
Yeah, I know. Hold on to your hats.
Yeah.
And you've also got an Etsy shop with your paintings, correct?
I do.
Cool.
I sell the prints of the paintings on Etsy, and I have a website too that you could see everything that I've done. The originals are also for sale.
Awesome.
And I do commissions as well.
Very cool. And we'll have links to all of that in the show notes so you
They're
guys can check it
so
out.
beautiful, by the way.
Yeah, I was really impressed when I saw them.
Has described them as what we thought the games looked like when we were kids. That's what he's trying to
I
make
love
the
that.
paintings look like. Oh my gosh, they are so good.
Oh, thank you.
Very cool. So, Logan, how you been? Good. Have we played any more Froth lately?
Yes.
So if you have not listened to last episode, we did an episode on Crazy Golf, just he and I together, and we really talked Ribbit King up. And we
I can confirm, great game.
Best ever.
it's been kind of sweeping the Wilson household. So so we've enjoyed it. We are almost to the end. I think we've only got a couple more to go, right?
Yup.
Yep, and we played a little bit of golf with your friends, with Emily as well. Mm-hmm. That was pretty fun. We played the space station, of course. Mm-hmm. So we're continuing the golf kick here at Wilson Land, and it's been a lot of fun. So you've got some music to share tonight too, right?
Yes. Everyone does.
Yeah, we'll get to you in a little while. All right, so this is a kind of an interesting show. We've each picked one game each that we are passionate about, or a game that is part of a series that we are passionate about, something that aligns with our passions. And so we're each going to play 4 selections from those games and kind of do like not necessarily like a deep dive into those games, but go a little bit further than we would normally go during like a free pick show or something like that. So we've got some really good stuff lined up, some very
Some surprises.
Yeah, some surprises, some very popular games, and maybe some unknown games from series you might be familiar with. So speaking of that, Emily, let's start off with you first. What are you sharing with us today?
Yes, thank you. We're going to start with, these are all going to be tracks from Pokemon Gold and Silver for the Game Boy Color. So released in 1999. So travel back to 1999 with me. We're talking Dreamcast. We're talking like Disney Afternoon. Yeah, exactly.
Do it on the kazoos. Do it on the kazoos.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. Okay, it's 1999. Great. We're all wearing Jinko jeans, flannel. It's
I mean,
good.
I am
Manic
wearing
Panic.
jeans.
Yeah, jeans, flannel. So we're gonna go back to this Game Boy Color / Game Boy Classic because I just felt like I knew Ren was gonna do something very nostalgic and important to him as a kid. So I was trying to figure out what is the most nostalgic that I could go with a video game, and it actually was Pokemon, which surprised me. I thought it was gonna be something Sega Genesis, but there's something about the feeling of the game, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that you're playing an 11-year-old who's going on an adventure for the first time and all that just felt like it's almost like a game about childhood that I played in my childhood.
Yeah.
So it's this double whammy of just like good feeling. So that's where we're going to start. And I thought I picked 4 different tracks that I thought would kind of show off the gamut of what the music does in the game. So we're going to start with Jim, which I was trying to think of what would be the most iconic track from the game, and the title screen probably. But I think other than that, it would be the Jim theme. And that's what we're going to listen to.
Awesome.
Composed by Junichi Masuda and Go Ichinose.
All right, be right back.
Bye.
All right, that was Jim from Pokemon Gold and Silver for the Game Boy Color, again composed by Junichi Masuda and Go Ichinose. So, Are we all amped up now? Woo! Yeah!
Super amped up.
That's right, because that's what that track is supposed to achieve. So, if you're not familiar with the concept of Pokemon, just really briefly, you're out adventuring in the world, you catch semi-mythical creatures to be on your team, and then you use them in your battles with other trainers who are training their mythical creatures. So if you're familiar with Digimon, it's the same kind of thing. It's basically taking an RPG formula, but instead of having like you and your party members fight together, it's sort of like you are the coach of your party, which are your creatures.
Leading them into battle.
Yes, and so there's a whole culture around this in the games where you're traveling from town to town, and every town has a gym leader who specializes in a certain kind of Pokemon, and then you go to those gyms to challenge them to see if you can win, and if so, you get a badge, and then you move on to the next town. So when you enter the gym, this is the track that meets you, and it's so good because it feels like such a powerful moment when you're a kid, especially when you're trying to figure out how an RPG even works, to feel like you've arrived at this like brief interstitial moment before the major battle, and the track is amping you up for it.
Yeah,
so you feel like, I've made it, I haven't done it.
It feels like you've already won it. Like you walk into the gym.
Yeah, you're already qualified, and now it's time to really throw down. But what I love about this track is that it's actually originated in the first games in the series. So this is the second. The Gold and Silver games are the second in the series of Pokemon. And in the original Red, Blue, Green, Yellow, etc.
Chartreuse, Paisley.
Exactly, thank you. I forgot those. Thank you for catching me. This track existed, but it was much different, and it was missing the crunch of the doo-doo-doots. Like I was kind of like punching along to them. In the original track, it just goes da 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 da, and it's like more floaty. So I'd played the original games before I got to these, and so when I walked into the gym, and I first was like, oh yes, it's the same tune, and then they threw in those da da dunts. It felt like the way it was supposed to be the first time, and I was just like, yes, this is awesome.
Yes.
So I love that they took something so familiar and made it, when they remixed it, it didn't really feel like it changed it. It like felt like it more further realized what it was. So they added in what had been there the whole time but hadn't been.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
What do you think about it, Logan?
The best.
The best. That's right. Everybody else go home. Logan says.
She wins.
So, question about the gym.
Yes.
So, you go there to train?
You go there to challenge the gym leader.
Okay.
So it's like the toughest Pokemon trainer from that particular town owns the gym.
Okay.
And then so you challenge the other trainers who work at the gym, who are more difficult than just like, you know, the random kids that you meet on the way to the town. And then you finally take on the actual gym leader. Yeah.
So it's like, it's a leveling sort of thing. It's like,
Yes.
all right, you go to this place.
You go to this place, yeah,
This
you
is the
fight the
moment.
mini bosses and the mid bosses, and then you hit the final boss for that area.
You want to be the very best.
It's great because it does sound like, okay, here comes something that you're going to have a challenge, but it's also a very fun track.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're doing great. You know what I mean? It's kind of patting you on the back.
Yes, it is patting your back.
It's very positive.
Yes.
What struck me is the really wide panning between the two lead instruments, which is almost like an Amiga thing. It's very hard left and hard right. And with that kind of instrumentation in chip music, it's weird because when they're harmonizing, it makes it just sound like one kind of very wide note.
Yes.
But then in the B section, when they start, like there's a little bit of like a counter melody in the right speaker, and then it's going on to the normal melody in the left speaker. Like it really kind of like you're almost getting a little like schizophrenic. They're like trying to focus on both at the same time.
Yes.
And then they start harmonizing again.
Yes,
and
they
come
pull together.
It's really, really cool how they did that. So I'm curious to see how they work that in, because I know the whole soundtrack has that same kind of stereo panning. So
It
how
does.
it works into the rest of the tracks.
And I'm glad that you brought that up because we are going to be talking about that in further tracks. But yeah, there is a lot going on. There's a lot of polyphony, if we want to use the technical term. But there's just a lot of intricate lines that will kind of suddenly come together into something and then sort of split apart, exactly like you're saying. So,
Sweet.
Yep. And I think also, just one last note about this track, I was thinking about the Pokemon games in general, and there is so much music in it. There's different music for different towns. Not every town has an individual theme, but a lot of them do. All of the routes in between, so when you're in the overworld walking between towns, those will have different tunes, so you don't just have one overworld theme. So you have multiple tunes between towns. You have the battle themes, the battle theme between a random wild Pokemon and a trainer and a gym leader and the Elite Four. These are all different, So there's tons of music, and I think something that Pokemon does very well is capturing these in-between emotions. Not just the, here's a hard battle or here's a sweet town, but the traveling between and what that means to you and sort of all the feelings that you might be feeling. Like in this track, I feel like you're amped up and you're excited, but you also know a really hard battle is coming too. So I feel like it does a good job capturing that sort of mix.
Very cool. So Logan, you're kind of into Pokemon, right?
Kind of.
Kind of.
Kind of. You got some cards and stuff, right?
Yep.
Have you ever played a real Pokemon game before?
No.
Based on what Emily's saying, do you think you'd be interested in trying one?
Yes.
Yeah?
Oh, I wonder which one. I mean, that might not be a question for
What
me.
system would you most like to play a Pokemon game on? Like a 3DS or a DS or a Game Boy?
I would go for whatever.
Whatever?
He's down for
All right.
whatever.
So I think maybe, Emily,
Nintendo Switch if we ever get another.
maybe, Emily, you can recommend a good place for Logan to start.
I'll try to help. But
the
I actually
Pokemon
know.
Sword and Pokemon
So the
Shield.
the Pokemon gym trainer, I think, in our podcasting world is Purnell. So I think maybe you want to ask Purnell.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Like
You might-
literally, because he also does those leagues where he goes to conventions.
Yeah,
and
he's a
is-
trainer at MagFest
Yep.
and all that stuff too, so.
Purnell, paging Purnell.
From what I've heard of him, I wouldn't mess with him.
That's right.
No, he's steel type, so he's pretty strong.
That's true.
Anyways, want to move on to our next track?
Sure, yes. Let's move on to Professor Elm's laboratory.
Bye.
Professor Elm's laboratory. Again, Pokemon Gold and Silver.
Was he like a farmer or something?
No,
He's
he's a
had like
scientist.
kind of a hoedown feel.
He's a scientist, but he's a scientist in a very small town. So, yeah, it's funny that you say
very
that.
rural.
Yeah, exactly.
Campy, almost not campy in that way, but like out in the field.
Yeah,
Kinda like-
exactly.
Exactly. I think there are like 3 houses in this town, possibly 2, and a laboratory.
Nice.
So, very small. And that's how all the Pokemon games start, actually. You start out as a young 10 or 11-year-old kid in your tiny little town, and you're going on your first adventure, like I mentioned. And so as you progress through the different areas, you'll wind up seeing cities, and you'll wind up in the mountains and things. So they start you very, very small hometown and give you that sort of homey feeling with a really sweet tune. And then they move you onwards. So this isn't actually the tune from the town, but this is the tune of the Pokemon professor who lives in the town. And this is also a standard with the Pokemon games. In the originals, you start out in a town, there'd be a Pokemon professor who was like a scientist studying them in the town with you, and you would, for whatever reason, it differs, go to their lab and they would give you your first Pokemon. And this is a huge deal, and I don't even know how to explain this. I'm sure you can connect this to other things that you've done in games or just in life, but when you go to this lab and you have the 3 starter Pokemon, every Pokemon game has 3 Pokemon in the beginning that you choose among, and they don't appear anywhere else. Again, I think that's technically not true in the modern day, but it was back then. So you would have your Bulbasaur, your Charmander, and your Squirtle. You'd have to make your decision, and then that would be your decision. And so when you were a kid, this is actually the first thing I did with these games, with the originals. I played this at a friend's house, and just the whole ceremony of going and choosing it was so exciting. She let me borrow the game, but she told me that I couldn't save because there's one save file. So I would just play it, pick my Pokemon, like restart, do it again.
Oh, man.
And it was just so exciting to pick that Pokemon. And so there's a kind of like a personality aspect that gets woven into the Pokemon games. You decide, like, what kind of trainer am I? Which one speaks to me? And it feels almost like you're making a soul decision. You know, who's going to be my partner that's probably going to be with me for this entire journey. And so this is the tune that plays in the background while you're doing that.
So the other 2, they don't appear anymore? Like, did you say?
Well,
Or-
they do, because you always have a rival in the games who shows up and takes one of the other ones, and they choose the elemental type that is strong against yours.
Okay.
So if you
Makes
choose the
sense.
grass type, they're going to choose the fire type, and so then that will become kind of like your rival Pokemon that you'll see again and again.
Right.
So Logan, if you had to choose between those 3 Pokemon, which do you think you'd choose?
Which 3?
Bulbasaur, so the grass type, Charmander, the fire type, and Squirtle, the water type. Well, that's from the first game.
Charmander.
Charmander?
Duh.
You go Duh! Yeah.
Because it turned into Charizard.
That's true. Charizard is awesome, but gotta say, Bulbasaur for
With the
life.
flame and tail.
That's true, he does. He has a flame and tail. The starters are different in Pokemon Gold and Silver, but I think those would be the most recognizable to everybody.
Yeah,
The original 3.
Exactly.
So I picked this tune because I thought it illustrated something that the Pokemon games do in particular, the early ones that I've noticed, which is almost like this Baroque fugue-like thing. You've got 3 different melody lines going, doing very different things at the same time, and it all sort of, I could imagine playing it in clarinet trio in high school. It's the only way I can explain it. It sounds like a little chamber group. And it sounds kind of, I don't want to say cheesy, but kind of hokey. There's
There's no affect on any of the notes. This is the pure Game Boy tone generation. There's no vibrato, which is, there's a little bit of decay on the end of the notes, but it's this is what you might hear default settings on your Game Boy music programming application or whatever you use to make Game Boy music,
Yep.
So it's very simple. And the first time when we started playing the music, I was like, what is this, a Fisher-Price toy from 2012 or something?
Yeah, and because
it feels
it's
very simple.
it's just so relentlessly positive and just cute and wholesome, but I like that because I think that really sort of shows off a side to Pokemon, which is that kind of cute wholesomeness. I mean, just think about this. You're playing a 10-year-old whose mom is like, have a good adventure and make sure that you come back and visit sometimes. You go off alone into the countryside.
Don't burn yourself on fire types,
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's just so, the world in some ways is so innocent that seems, plausible that you could just go on an adventure like that.
There is a lot of innocence in that tune.
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly.
And the trainers, for the most part, aren't ever in any real danger. It's really only the Pokemon that are killing each other. So
sometimes Pokemon can die. The first game could get pretty dark, so there is this sort of, if you're looking for it, it's definitely there. And we will talk about the concept of Pokemon too later. Just the idea of pitting these creatures against each other for battles against school kids to be like, I beat you. I take half your money now. So
sounds like my childhood.
No, I'm sorry.
All right, well, let's move on to our next track. What's up?
Okay, so this one, it's funny that you said that Professor Elm's laboratory sounded very default to you, because this tune, Azalea Town, is, I don't know, it's nostalgia personified to me. The melody is so sweet that at times it almost hurts, and I want everybody to listen to the phrasing of it, just the nuances like the vibrato and when notes get cut short or they extend, because it's so good. But yeah, Azalea Town for Pokemon Gold and Silver.
Cool. And bye.
voice is so shot. Saved it then.
Nicely done.
Woo! Azalea Town.
That was really good.
I love that tune.
It was really pretty.
I'm crying.
So much.
I'm actually crying.
He's actually crying, everybody. Ren is crying. Literally crying. Okay, so the reason I wanted to pick Azalea Town, it is a town theme. You've been traveling through a cave to get there, and caves always have kind of like semi-creepy music going on and, you know, some sort of more on the creepy side Pokemon in them. And then you come out of this cave and you wind up in this town that is on the edge of a forest. It's such a quaint little town. There's a fire kiln there, so you can just imagine that there's the smell of wood in the air. All the people in the town have one particular kind of Pokemon, Slowpoke, which is, so you're laughing. Do you know what Slowpoke is, or are you just laughing at the name?
No,
Okay.
I'm envisioning like one guy that just won't get out of your way. Or
Yeah,
something.
exactly. There are all these little Slowpoke in the overworld of the town, and when you talk to them, they just say like ... poke? Question mark? Like everything in that town is so slow.
Maybe they really want a Pokeball.
Yeah, they do. Maybe they do.
Maybe they want a Pokeball.
Maybe they do. Or a
Pokeball
Poke bowl that is a Pokeball.
Perfect.
Ball-
Just a Pokeball full of
design.
sushi.
Or a Pokeball that is a Pokeball.
There you go. So maybe. I wish I'd known that at the time when I was playing the game, because I did not have those items with me.
See?
But I picked that tune because it's so sweet, and I feel like it captures that feeling of, you know, coming through all those trials and winding up in that town. But that melody line, I mean, the little things that they do to it with the phrasing, it almost sounds voice-like, you know? There's a vibrato at the end of some.
Yep.
And the way they resolve, too, like... Yeah,
together. That chord is so good. And then even just like that, it's like... ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba, like that, you know? I just love it so much. And this is the tune when I'm I'll find myself humming this or singing this at certain points when I'm just happy, you know, and I'll just realize that that's what I'm doing, you know? So I think there's something about this particular song to me that kind of encapsulates all of those good feelings, to the point where I subconsciously have it with me when something like that is happening, when I feel those feelings again.
Excellent.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yep. Azalea Town.
Azalea Town.
Yep.
Super sweet.
That's basically all I've got.
Super sweet.
I just want to go back and listen to it again. But I think also, too, this tune is very poppy in comparison to the others. So we've had like kind of like a really driving, almost maybe rockish kind of, or verging on rock song, kind of like the hokey old-timey thing. Mm-hmm. Now we've got this like really sweet pop song that really sounds like it has words. It doesn't, but it sounds like it could, you know? And then we'll move on to the fourth one. We're just going to kick it up. Yeah, we're going to kick it up a notch. So now we're going to go into a boss theme, everybody. So our final track, our final selection, yes, from Pokemon Gold and Silver is going to be Rival Battle. Boss time.
Goodbye.
Rival Battle. Pokemon Gold and Silver.
My rival feels battled.
Does
that's
it?
for sure.
Does it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Intense.
Yeah. Clearly a boss tune. Real good, did you say?
Yes.
Logan says, real good. Yes, so this is one of the many boss themes that we have. And this is specifically your rival's theme in this game. You were asking about,
Oh, okay.
Does that other starter Pokemon ever show up? In the first Pokemon games, your rival was just your childhood friend who was like, I'm going to be better than you. But in Pokemon Gold and Silver, your rival is actually this random character that you don't know who actually breaks into the laboratory and steals one of the Pokemon.
Whoa.
Stealing a Pokemon is completely taboo in the Pokemon world,
I
and
bet.
taking anyone else's Pokemon. Yeah.
It's unspoken of.
Yes. So, this rival, as you might imagine from just stealing a Pokemon, is actually not a good person. In the first game, it's just your childhood friend who's kind of like a jerk, but a jerk to you. But in this game, it's specifically written as a character who doesn't treat his Pokemon well, feels like being powerful is the most important thing, you know, and is basically always just trying to, you know, beat you into the dirt just to do it, to be more powerful.
Spiteful, yeah.
Exactly, and shows up at the worst times, of course, as random boss battles do. But so this was the first game in the series that really tried to put a compassion element to this, so it becomes clear during the game that your Pokemon, whenever you win, this rival is like, I don't understand, why am I losing? And the game is trying to put the message forward that you are winning because you love your Pokemon and you take care of them and you don't let, you know, hopefully you don't let them faint in battle, you pull them out.
They're working with you instead of
exactly,
for you.
yes.
Rewarded for being a good person.
Right,
basically.
exactly, yes. And so I think
What
this...
a terrible message.
I know, but this might have actually been a response to the first game, which didn't have that element, to try to put a morality to it, to kind of soften the whole idea of the game, which is collecting creatures and having them fight against each other. Yeah. I think that it's been hit or miss in the Pokemon games as they've gone on, as they've tried to sell the compassion angle. They've sort of settled on this thing like, no, they want to fight, so it's okay. And it's like, no, like actually show me Pokemon who don't want to be caught, or, you know, or say, I don't want to fight you, or something like that. Sort of the implicit suggestion that all of them really want to have a trainer, because, you know, that I find sort of problematic. But yeah, so this game was really trying to push this compassionate message that it's not about necessarily being the most powerful. And I think Pokemon Gold and Silver might have introduced the friendship element, I'm not sure, but in later games, if you let your Pokemon faint in battle and you don't give them medicine when they're sick, they will like you less, and this will affect how they perform in battle.
That makes sense.
Yeah, which is interesting. So, but I thought that was a really interesting departure from the first game, where it was just, you know, your buddy from whatever, to this, where it's like clearly somebody who doesn't understand that being a good person is the right way to go.
Yeah, they had to up the stakes for the next game. That makes a lot of sense.
Yep. But I thought that these 4 tracks really kind of demonstrated the breadth of what these games could do.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I've heard people say, like, I don't think I like Pokemon music, and I don't know what that means to them. Like, what tracks are they thinking of? Because these 4 are so different that I feel like there's a lot to like in lots of different ways. So I'm not really sure which tracks are the ones that permeate the consciousness of people who don't play Pokemon.
Well, for me, as a non-Pokemon fan, like, all of this music is like practically brand new to me. Like, vaguely familiar because people have asked me to, like, you know, send them MP3s of the music or whatever. But in terms of, like, you know, familiarity versus other video game music that's out there, like, so I was impressed, that this is a relatively early-ish Game Boy Color game.
Yeah.
With this much music. There's, like, I don't know, almost like 50 different tracks in this game. And then B, as far as what you've picked, I think you've done a really good job at selecting music that really shows off the different moods and the different musical styles. You know, it almost sounds like it's from 4 different composers, even though only 2 worked on the game. So overall, I feel like both of them had a really good handle on what the Game Boy could do and how to create mood and how to convey what was going on in the game through the music and not just, you know, text and graphics. So really cool.
And I know neither of you are familiar with Pokemon. I actually had a conversation with Ed recently where we were talking about Detective Pikachu, and I said, man, I'm just so happy to see a Pikachu that wasn't Ash's Pikachu. I'm tired of Ash's Pikachu. And Ed goes, there's more than one Pikachu? And I was like, Ed, oh my god, yes!
That's the yellow one, right?
Yeah. Oh my god!
Super cute.
It's the one that says Pika?
Yeah, I know. They try to make it easier for you in that regard. But yeah, so, you know, new folks to Pokemon, but this was something, this got released, not Pokemon Gold and Silver, which I actually played in college, but I played the originals when I was, I think, 13 or 12. I think 12, and that was just like, I was the dot on the target of the demographic, and it just completely took over. It took over all of us, so.
Well, I mean, yeah, for me, it never really, I mean, I've heard this music before. I can recognize the sound of it, with the sound, like the chip and whatever, like, instrumentation that they're using. I can tell that it's Pokemon. but I'd never heard these compositions. But I wanted to say this last track, it's really interesting because I'm just listening to it for the first time. I've never heard this track before. But in these like turn-based battles, it's really funny how they have to stretch it out because you don't know how long the battle's going to go for. So I'm sitting here listening to it and I'm like, okay, that part played. Here it comes again. Oh, no, it doesn't. It doesn't repeat anything because it has to kind of keep it fresh.
Right.
And kind of keep it
it's got
going.
like 4 movements instead of 2 or just 1.
Yeah, so I just think that's a really neat thing because you're not even probably thinking about that the first couple times you're playing. As you're playing through these battles, you're just thinking, what am I doing? And
oh my gosh, I gotta win.
All this kind of stuff, but it's kind of neat how that music is almost subconsciously keeping you so engaged.
Yeah.
Yes,
and it's also going to be a moment that you like remember when it's a key moment in the game too. So you're going to have that music kind of drilled into your skull as being significant in that.
Yes.
In the plot of the game.
Yes, this only plays when you fight your rival. So whenever he shows up, you're like, oh, here we go.
Nice.
Rival battle.
Rival battle.
Rival battle.
Cool.
That was Pokemon, everybody.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
You are
Thank you.
welcome.
I feel like I've learned a little bit today.
Oh, good.
A little bit about Pokemon. Well, just versus the amount of information there is about Pokemon, this is really the tippy top of the iceberg.
It is the tippy top, yep.
I don't know, Logan, how do you feel about Pokemon now? Are you
That
a
was
cow?
there were a lot of O's in that. I think that's a good sign.
Starting with capitals and ending with little O's. All right, so we're going to move on
Those
to...
that get smaller and smaller.
Exactly. So we're going to move on to your pick for the night. What have you got for us?
Luigi's Mansion 3 for the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, why'd you pick this game?
I like how creepy it is.
Ooh, creepy. I've never played this. I've never played any Luigi's Mansion. I've seen it.
Ooh, what about you, Tim?
Have I ever played Luigi's Mansion?
Any of the Luigi's Mansions?
I have not. I've seen them. I've seen people stream them here and there.
Cool.
I've heard the music a bit. Very well done, but no, I've never played them
So
myself.
this will be
New
a
to us. Now
yeah,
it's my turn to learn some stuff.
exactly.
I'm ready.
You don't know everything?
I don't know everything.
I'm the guy that knows everything, except Pokemon, evidently.
That's right, yeah. More than one Pikachu.
Perfect.
It's a species of animal.
All right, dude. So what are we gonna play from first from Luigi's Mansion 3?
We have got King Boo Rooftop
This
by
was-
Chad York and Darren Radke. Radke is a rad type.
He's
For
Pokemon
Poke-
The
Rad
rad
type.
type, yeah.
He's the extreme Pokemon.
Yeah.
All right, so King Boo Rooftop, Luigi's Mansion 3 came out on the Switch in 2019. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. What did we just listen to? Yes, we are. What did you just listen to, Logan?
King Boo Rooftop, composed by Chad York and Darren
Radke.
Radke.
You'll get it eventually. Just think of a really awesome key. That's a rad key.
That's me.
You're not
Perfect.
Radke.
Exactly.
No, you're not.
Key glyph.
Oh.
Man, burned.
Ow.
Horrible. Anyways.
I'm burning your toes off now.
Goodness, man.
All
Need
right.
a nice pack.
So, Logan, tell us a little bit about why you picked King Boo Rooftop.
It sounds creepy.
It does sound pretty creepy. You picked a lot of creepy stuff. Usually you're picking the upbeat, kind of nice, dancey tracks, but we've got some really creepy, almost Halloween-style selections.
But
from
we got
Luigi's Mansion
one
3.
that's DJ'd.
Yep, one that's really funky. So, King Boo Rooftop. Do you remember fighting King Boo in the game?
Yes, the beginning.
Yeah. What do you have to do? So first of all, tell me a little bit about the game. Why is Luigi in a mansion this time?
He got invited to a mansion hotel.
To like bust the ghosts? Because I think for Luigi's Mansion games are about sucking up ghosts in a vacuum cleaner, right? So was he?
It's not a vacuum cleaner.
Oh my gosh, what is it? I don't know anything about these games. You
It's a
got to teach me.
poltergust.
It's a poltergust. Okay, so so we're sucking up ghosts in a poltergust. So was he invited to do that at this place?
Did they say, hey, Luigi, come and clean up some ghosts?
No.
Oh no.
They just invited him.
Oh my goodness. And
So they were
Take his soul.
oh my gosh.
basically, yeah. So they invite Peach and Mario and Luigi
And the three toads.
and the three toads to a hotel for a
Ready
vacation.
to
It's just like an all-inclusive vacation. Thank you for saving the princess from Bowser for the 8 billionth time. Come stay at this hotel. Everything is comped. So they get in
Nice.
and they start to realize that things are not as they seem. There are ghosts running the hotel, but they're all wearing people masks. And
Oh, I
wearing
see.
real
which is
clothes.
very creepy.
Yeah, but of course our protagonists don't realize what is going on
But we
until
do.
they're all shown to their rooms, and then Peach and Mario and the Toads all get kidnapped, right?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. And so Luigi almost gets kidnapped, but he manages to escape.
Because he's the smart one. Yeah, Luigi.
I think he's
He's
just
my
so
boy.
scared that he ends up running away first.
Oh,
While
well, that too.
Mario's
Still
like,
my boy.
Mario's like, I'm gonna fight you off, and he gets kidnapped. And Peach is like, I'm gonna fight you off, and Luigi's just like runs out of the room.
Luigi's
so-
like already gone.
From what I've seen, Luigi seems like the biggest scaredy cat.
He is.
Yeah.
For sure.
So then what do you have to do? Like, how do you progress through this game?
You vacuum all the ghosts up.
Yep. And you just wander aimlessly around the hotel?
No.
Well, how do you do that? How do you know you're getting further in the game?
By collecting elevator buttons.
Right.
I know it sounds weird, but that's how it
Does
works.
sound weird.
Yeah.
What do you do with the buttons?
You put them in the elevator.
And then the elevator starts to work?
Probably takes you to different floors,
Yes.
right? Oh, I see.
yes,
So we're
yes,
trying to
yes,
get to the
yes.
tippy top of this mansion for some reason.
Yeah.
Room
Kind of reminds
15.
me.
Room 15.
Yeah, floor 15, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
not room 15.
Actually, you end up down in the sub basement in the garage,
B1.
and then you have to get all the way up to floor 15, kind of like Ghostbusters, I guess.
Yeah.
in a sense.
What happens
Everything's-
on floor 15? Who's waiting
Well,
up
we
there?
haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, okay.
So,
King Boo is waiting.
Oh,
Spoilers.
sorry.
which floor have you gotten to so far? What's your highest floor?
13?
Oh, you're almost there.
Yeah,
Wow.
We'll have to make sure our save game is preserved for whenever we replace our Switch. A lot of fun. All the floors have different themes. So there's like Egypt. There's like a floor of a hotel where they make movies for some reason. A lot of really weird stuff going on in this game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Video
yes,
game
yes,
logic.
Yes, yes,
well, as far as the
yes,
tune
yes,
goes,
yes.
Ren enjoyed how minimalistic the whole thing
I
was.
was going to ask you, Logan, why do you think that song sounds so creepy? What makes it sound so creepy to you? Is there a lot of space in it?
Yeah.
It's very like you don't know what's coming up. There's no real rhythm to it. I mean there is, but it leaves you waiting what's gonna happen next with the very minimalistic piano. Don't. Then you're waiting. Right? It's kind of creepy, right? Yeah, exactly. Boom. It's almost like
Lots of different sounds,
the ghosts are making the music and behind the walls or something like that.
rattling the furniture.
yeah, that's right.
And what about the piano sounds? Are they like bright and happy?
No, the opposite. Dark
do.
and creepy.
Exactly. I like the claps.
Yeah.
Those are really like the castanets
technically,
or
I was thinking that was a taiko drum because it sounds like the things
oh
against
yeah,
it.
when they
because you also
yeah.
get the boom boom, which is definitely a taiko drum.
right.
And I just decided within the past week that I think the taiko drum is the perfect musical instrument. So I was just very excited.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This is actually the first Luigi's Mansion in the series that was developed and composed by Western
Oh wow,
individuals.
that's very interesting.
So it was,
I wonder if that's going to come through in further.
yeah,
tracks.
it was Nintendo's Japanese team that made the first two, and then Kazumi Tutaka wrote the soundtrack for both of them. And so Chad York and Darren Radke are working. And they've worked on other Nintendo games in the past, but it was very surprising for me to see them working on this game when Totaka's sound was like, he created that da 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 da, you know, that motif that permeates throughout the first two Luigi's Mansion games.
Yep.
And it's still in this game, but they've added a lot more flair and I think breadth of instrumentation in this game because there are so many different themes on these hotel floors. Speaking of lots of different themes, what do we got coming up next?
We got DJ Phantasmagoria.
Yeah, Phantasmagoria, right?
Yeah.
All right, is this a boss?
Yes.
Cool. Well, let's take a listen. We'll be right back.
Boss time.
That was Boss DJ Phantasmagoria.
Jam!
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Jammed it!
That was
Nailed
hot.
it, jammed it. That was so good. That track was so good.
Shaking the booties over here.
Yeah,
Big time.
it.
So
Big time.
we haven't gotten to this point in the game yet, but I think we're looking forward to getting there. This sounds pretty funky. So just a little side note, technical aspect about, so like Nintendo has been doing with all of their games, most of their soundtracks are like 4 or 6 channels. So as you approach boss areas in this game, Luigi will be, coming down the hallway towards the boss room, and you'll hear the music playing like it's actually playing in their room. So it'll have like 2 separate tracks where the music's like, it sounds like it's recorded like far down the hallway from the recording studio or something.
Yeah.
And then as you enter the boss room, the music will kind of like open up into
Envelop
the
you.
full production.
It almost harkens back to the original Zelda, I'm thinking, when you hear the screams of the boss. From a
Oh,
couple
yeah.
When your room's
And
away.
I love that. It really
They
builds the
did that,
suspense.
especially like even in the castles in Super Mario Brothers where Bowser's flames would
Yeah.
come.
Yep.
There's always some sort of premonition before
Absolutely.
the boss comes in.
a great
I didn't even think
build-up.
about that. That's really
Yeah.
cool. Hey Logan, are you making out with the couch? So what did you think about this track? I mean, I know you picked it. Why'd you pick it?
It's a DJ song.
Yeah. What did it remind you of? Any music that you know? Well, let's talk about mood. So, how did it make you feel?
Disco-y.
Disco.
Disco-y.
Oh, it's now an
Disco
adjective.
ball-y.
Made you want to dance, right?
Yes.
So very different feel from the first track that we listened to, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So more of a tempo, a little faster. Did you like any particular parts of it?
I liked all of it.
Yeah.
All of it. We were a big fan of the da-da-da-da trumpet
Yeah.
stabs in
You
there.
throw brass in almost any song
Yaga,
like
yaga.
this, it's just gonna kick it up.
That bass
I
line,
think we're talking
man.
about-
There's
yeah,
this
that-
bass line that went bugga like all the way down into the basement. It was so good. It was so good. So the thing that we're talking about where, we listen to that track, which is what you would hear in the game when you're not in the room. So what I love about that is that it kind of implies that Boo is having a party, right? Like the boss music has nothing to do with you or your engagement with Boo or DJ
Phantasmagoria.
DJ Phantasmagoria, just having a party, and then you wander into the party, and then they just start, potentially their
His
attack.
or her natural habitat. Just
Right, exactly.
jam out,
Right.
And if you come in here, I'm gonna try to kill you.
Yeah.
Right, exactly,
This
yeah.
is the nightclub floor of the hotel.
Yeah, and I just love that. I love that idea because something that I've been thinking about a lot lately for some reason, and we can go into this on another show maybe sometime, but just the concept of, does the boss music come from the boss? Like, do they somehow bend the universe to create their music, or is it you, the heroes, or is it a mishmash of both, So I like thinking that this is just definitely, this is so their music that it's not even something that they're bending the universe for. They're just spinning the table.
Right. Exactly. I totally agree with you.
That's a fun thing to even chat about. Like, is the music just in the player's head, really?
Yeah.
And this universe is just happening. They don't have music when they're walking around the woods and looking for
do
gold.
they?
Or
Yeah.
do they? Yeah.
It's funny, we were just talking about this a couple episodes ago when I was playing a track from the game After Party, where the characters are going through lots of different bars and nightclubs in hell, and the soundtrack is the music that's coming from the speakers in the nightclub. So you know that the characters are listening to the same music that the player is.
Yep.
But then I was like, if you're in like Mega Man's Flashman stage, like you don't think that Mega Man's hearing that music. It's there
Playing
for the
it in
players.
his helmet or something, can I just be like very excited about the only cinema knowledge that I have? This is the difference between diegetic music or not. Diegetic is music that's happening in universe, but non-diegetic is just stuff for the viewers. So that's what we're talking about. Anyway,
Let me write
that's,
there.
that's the only thing that I know about
Dropping
movies.
the SAT words on us.
That's the only thing I know about
Diegetic,
movies, and I had to throw it out there.
non-diegetic?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Dianetics.
Yeah, no, please.
Right, L. Ron Hubbard.
No, thank you.
All right, Logan, what do we got coming up next?
Paranormal Productions Studio 1 horror set.
Yeah, this is from the 8th floor of the game. And you've played through this level, right?
Yes.
Now, so we can talk a little bit about it in detail. Be right back.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. was 8F Paranormal Productions Studio One horror set.
This one is creepy AF.
Yeah.
Even creepier than the first one, I think.
So
I would agree.
What sounds did you hear in this one?
I do not know.
Did you hear any like people voices?
No.
Maybe ghost voices?
No.
Piano?
No.
What'd you hear?
I heard some of those.
Yeah.
Banjo? Here's some banjo.
Were you paying attention to the song?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's very creepy.
It is very, very creepy. Ren, you were enjoying it quite a bit.
Yeah,
What'd you think?
I was gonna say there was a really nice kind of dichotomy of kind of the low hits on the pianos, but the ethereal, really nice, pretty almost voices. It was
Yeah.
almost like a Danny Elfman sort of thing.
Yeah,
was,
yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
Where you had like the little bells, really beautiful melodies.
Playful but spooky.
Right. Without that low hits on the piano, it would almost be like a Tchaikovsky ballet or something. Like, oh, this is so pretty. But then you throw in the boom of the piano. I just had a really nice dichotomy that made you kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah, there was malice in this track.
Sure.
The
Yeah.
first one I felt was just creepy in the sense of I'm sort of creeped out because it's a creepy atmosphere, but this feels like there's something after you. There's something to be afraid of.
There's something creepy about something evil, but that is emitting like a beautiful sound.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I feel like I was thinking kind of along those lines as I was paying attention to the instrumentation about like, there's certain instruments that seem creepy, but why? Why a music box?
Yeah.
And I think that's
Yeah.
why, because a music box is just so beautiful and innocent, but then you throw it into this and it's like,
Yeah. It's
Those things aren't supposed to be there.
yeah.
It's like playing by itself in a little kid's room or something.
Yeah, I
and just
know.
suddenly, it's creepy.
Well, that's
Everything's
another
fine.
thing. Yeah, is it's like an instrument that needs like human interaction to work, and when there's nobody
That's
around,
true. I've never thought
like,
about that before.
you know?
Yeah.
Also, the way that this music takes place, the Paranormal Productions floor is a floor in which several different movies are being made. So, you want to tell us a little bit about that, Logan?
I do not remember that much.
No? Do you have a favorite floor? Because I'm kind of wondering if I knew the themes of the floors, which floor would I want to stay on? Did any seem like a floor you'd want to stay on? Is there like a beach floor? Theme park
Pokemon floor?
A Pokemon floor?
No.
No.
Pokemon and Mario do not go good together.
Usually it ends up with lots of smashing.
Yeah, it does.
Not the
Indeed,
good
it does. No.
Not the good kind of slop.
So, I don't know, we were playing the pyramid level, right? The Egypt level, and that was pretty good. I enjoyed that one quite a bit.
Really hard.
Yeah.
Lots of booba traps.
Yep. And lots of sand to suck up. Like there's this area outside the pyramid where the entire floor is like desert, and it goes on for quite a bit. And you can literally walk around and suck up every single grain of sand into your poltergust, and
And it'll never
it never
fill
gets.
up.
Yeah, I know, it's pretty
It has
crazy.
infinite storage.
But it's got real sand physics, so it will kind of pile up, and so you have to like suck up sand and then blow sand into piles.
Oh, I
So that
see.
you can get up into other areas.
That's
so they're
clever.
they're really kind of taking advantage of the more advanced Switch processor to do things with the vacuum
Yeah.
that you weren't able to do in the
All
in the
those grains of
previous
sand,
games.
yeah.
So it's pretty cool like that. Yeah, and so in this one you have these very simple rooms that you walk into, and they're kind of like high school theater sets, just very simple like shapes and stuff. But then there's a camera looking at the set, and we didn't really talk about Luigi, but Luigi is this
Luigi.
kind of like Gollum, I guess. He's made of slime that looks like Luigi. He's like a green slimy Luigi.
I've seen this, yeah.
And so he can take the place, he can be a proxy for Luigi and get through like gratings that Luigi can't get through. He can kind of like just like slime his way through. Or it opens it up for a second player to play as Luigi kind of permanently. So that's what we would do. Logan would take Luigi and I would take Luigi, and we'd go through the game. And so in this level, you have to have Luigi look through the camera. And when Luigi looks through the camera, the set comes to life. So what was once just like a cardboard cutout of a castle is now an actual castle. And there's lots of stuff that you can do. So you have
it's
to send
interesting.
Luigi into the frame to do and get whatever is on the movie set and bring it out.
That's super
because
clever.
it normally wasn't there if Luigi wasn't looking through the video. So it was really, really well done.
Yeah.
And so this one's kind of like a haunted house set. And so you have to bring items from one to the other to kind of get back to the director who I guess you need to like save, who's trying to make this Godzilla film. So you get to like play out this big Luigi versus Ghost Godzilla
Awesome.
movie at the end of this floor, and then you finally get the button from the Ghost Godzilla.
This
So
sounds like so much fun.
it is
Yeah.
a really, really fun game, and it's equally kind of cinematic and action at the same time. They really did a really good job with this one. So, all right, I almost called you Luigi. All right, Logigi, we've got one more track left to play. What do we got?
Hotel Shops Ghost Theme
Ooh, sounds spooky.
on floor 3F.
The gift shop's on the 3rd floor?
Yeah,
Yes,
This makes no sense.
I know.
nothing makes
This
any
is the
sense.
thing that I protest against, not the Egypt floor with sand.
That's probably higher than that one too.
Yeah.
I,
How did they get it up in there?
All right.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Those 3F Hotel Shops Ghost Theme.
Ghost theme. So are the shops, do they normally have like nicer music and then the ghosts come in and it's worse?
Yeah.
That was my question. Thank you for
Yes.
addressing that.
Yes.
Can you buy things in the shop?
No.
Oh. So
All that I know is that there's keys in the cash registers.
Oh, that's right. So this is kind of like a mall floor where there's a lot of different
Oh.
shops, and most of them are locked, and you have to figure out ways to get
No,
into
all
the
of them are
gates.
locked.
Yeah. So you have to figure out how to get into the gates to
For
get the.
Luigi.
That's right. Luigi kind of pushes his way through the gates.
Luigi.
Luigi!
There's no gooey version of Mario. What would you call a gooey version of Mario?
Everyone's looking at me.
Well, I asked you.
Gooey-o?
Marigo.
Blueo?
I don't know.
I'll have to think about it.
Blario.
Blobio?
I don't know.
Blobio?
Mario.
Mario.
It's kind of cute. I like that. Mario.
Ew. All right. Any closing thoughts on Luigi's Mansion 3?
It's creepy.
It's creepy. It's good. It's fun, right? What's your favorite part about the game?
The whole game.
Yeah. Do you like that it's a 2-player game, or the second player can kind of go in and out?
Yes.
Because you play it with mom sometimes, you play it with me sometimes. Sometimes you can play it by yourself.
Yes.
Do you like playing it on the Switch, like off the dock, or do you like playing it on the TV better?
Both.
Yeah. Equally.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing the game with us.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you,
Logan.
Logan. Thank you very much.
You're
Learned
gonna-
a lot about Luigi's Mansion. Well, let me
right.
ask this. You've played a lot of the Luigi Mansion games, right, Logan?
Yes.
If I were to pick one to play, which one do you think would be the best for me to play? What's the one that you had the most fun with?
The third.
The third? Okay.
The third.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah. You don't need to have played the first one to play this one.
Yeah.
At all. They're in kind of individual stories. I mean, there's a couple of callbacks to the first couple games in this one, but it's nothing that you would need to like.
That's fine. There's
Yeah.
a ghost dog I can pet. We're good.
Of course, Polterpup is in there.
And Polter Kitty.
Oh, there's a Polter Kitty
There's
too.
a Polter Kitty
Yes.
too? Oh my goodness.
The
Amazing.
one with the... Remember the one that we were trying to get?
Oh, that's right. He was running away from us, right?
Yeah.
We have to follow his paw prints.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so cute.
And it's scared from us, but it also turns into a monster.
Oh,
So
okay.
don't go near it.
Okay. thank you for these tips. I will keep those in
But
mind
you can
when I
be
play
near
the game.
Polterpup as much as you want.
Okay, Polterpup never turns into a beast or a
Yeah,
monster.
he usually
No.
helps you out.
Good to know.
He's a ghost that you can touch.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting too.
All right, so Logan's gonna go fight some ghosts on the top floor of Hotel Wilson, right?
Yes.
And then you're gonna come back at the end
Yeah,
of the
we're
show.
on floor B1 right now.
For
Yeah, I know the listeners are probably like, "What's with the kazoos?" They don't know yet. I'll have to
I
get
don't even
into
think
that.
we know yet. So, anyways, let's move on to our next game of the night, and I think Tim, it's your turn, right?
It
well,
is.
goodbye.
Bye, Logan.
Bye, Logan.
Thank you, Logan.
Bye.
See ya.
See you in a little while.
Peace.
Peace. Piece of pizza.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
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 Bye times infinity.
Oh, he wins. Tried.
What are you gonna do?
Bye.
And that's just the taunt at the end.
Yeah, he's
Final.
I was already KO'd, Logan. You don't have to do the taunt after I'm KO'd.
kicking you when you're down.
Ah.
It's rough.
Yeah. When you have a 14-year-old brother, you learn some phrases.
I'll take the L. Take the L.
All right, so speaking of taking tough games, what you got for us, sir?
Well, my game is a game that is very special to me, although it's not a game that I had. I only played it once as a kid. That's Legacy of the Wizard on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Not the most obscure game. I think of it as a big rental game. I remember when we would rent games as kids, it was one that was like always there with like, you know, Excite Bike and just the ones that were like not great games, but they weren't the worst games. Well, sometimes they were actually. I should take that back. But I don't have a super clear memory of renting it. All I remember was just walking around, and anyone who knows this game, no one knew what to do with this game when we were kids because there was no map in the manual. If you even got the manual when you rented it, or if you had it.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah. You just walked around, and I just loved it was all about the feeling and the environment of the game for me. And the music obviously was a huge part of that. So all I remember about it was just walking around and being like, God, this music is awesome. And that's it. I didn't accomplish anything in the game. I rented it probably for a night, maybe even for a weekend, I don't know. But that's all I remembered from it, and I never played it again until my adulthood, until the renaissance of my life, which is when I got back into gaming, which is why I called it that.
Oh yeah, did we talk about that?
Not-
your online handle.
No, so the renaissance comes from, as you may see, it's ReNesance. Renaissance. So I would be talking to my friends about getting back into gaming, and I had a couple friends that were also into gaming and stuff, and just as kind of a silly punish thing to say, which is typically me, I'd be like, yeah, when I got back into the gaming and I realized you could buy games on eBay, and I was like, oh my god, it's all over, because I went back to my mom's house, saw my old NES in the corner of the basement, and I was like, yeah, I think it's time to bring this
Yep.
bring this back. It was actually like during the winter, and I was like just kind of depressed and stuff like that, and I just saw it and I was like, absolutely, I'm bringing this home. And I had maybe like 15 games with it. So anyway, I brought it back, and then I realized you can go on eBay and buy games. I was like, so, and they were all like $3, $4, so
Right, I know those days.
Yeah.
very slippery slope. So that was the renaissance. That was the whole
Gotcha.
rebirth of my love of the NES.
That's very cool.
Yeah, so, and that was one of the games where I saw it and I was like, oh my god, I remember this game, and yes, absolutely click buy right now. That's it.
Yes. Now that I'm an adult with an adult brain, maybe I can
Totally.
figure this out.
And the internet, which has a map, and I could just be like, okay, where do I have to go now? And like, it didn't really feel like cheating. It just felt like, thank you for the map to tell me this is my next target. How do I get there?
Right,
'Cause
just
it
helping you
doesn't-
understand. Yeah.
So yeah, it became, as soon as I played through it, because that was like the goal. I was like, okay, I'm an adult now. I'm going to play through this game. I'm going to finish this game. Because there were those games that seemed absolutely impossible
Yep.
when we were kids. Like, only like our friends' dads maybe beat it
Yeah, I
once.
know,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know what I mean? So we're like, well, now I'm going to beat it. So I did. And it was just like instantly in my heart. I loved so much about this game. The look of it, a very cute looking game, cute looking sprites, very colorful. But again, the music was just incredible to me. I was like, it's like 3 or 4 tracks, and what they did with it was just so beautiful.
And that was the connecting point from your past to the future when you decided to go back to it. It was the music that
Yeah,
brought you in.
totally. I mean, I
It
remembered.
stuck with you all that time.
Yeah, that was the crazy thing, and it wasn't just this game, but other games during that whole time. I would play it again. As soon as I heard like the first 2 notes of the game, I was like, "Oh my god, I know every note of this.
Yeah.
And I haven't thought about it in 30 years almost.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's amazing.
So
Like riding a bicycle.
Absolutely. It's a crazy thing. So I picked 4 tunes from the OST. I could talk about all of them because if you haven't played the game and if you haven't heard the music, please do so. But I find it a very interesting game because it has to do with a family. And it's a kind of a cooperative sort of idea. You only play one person at a time, and they all are living in this house in the top of the game. And they all have to kind of go down, traverse through this gigantic dungeon. And you basically have to find 4 crowns. They each have to find a crown. After you find the 4 crowns, then you are enabled to find the sword to kill the dragon.
Of course.
Sounds simple, but of course, like I said, the dungeon is huge. You don't know where you're going. Even when you have the map, there are false floors and all this kind of stuff.
We're going to be talking about that later.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you played it a bit.
I played it a little bit.
Yep,
just
yep,
enough
yep.
to know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
To throw my hands up and be like, what is this game?
Yeah. What I find really neat about a lot of the music is how I interpret it as possibly the composer's thoughts of how do these characters' themes connect and mirror the actual connection of their family.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So just go into the first tune.
Yeah,
or-
yeah. So what's our first track?
The first track is actually not one of the family members, but it's just the main dungeon theme. So to set it up, you have this beautiful house. You pick your character out of the 5 characters that you can play. Come out of the house, and you walk through this beautiful... This is another huge memory, and something I'd never forgotten aside from the music. You walk out of the house. It's beautiful, crisp colors, blue sky, white puffy clouds. It's gorgeous, and everyone, I think, walked past the ladder like to say, hey, what's going on over here?
Yeah.
And it's just this huge backdrop of this castle. And as kids, like, castles were so prevalent in movies of the time, and like movies like Willow and Princess Bride were just a big thing, I feel like.
Yep.
So as soon as I saw that, I was like, I love this game. This is great. So you come from this very happy tune, and then you go down in the dungeon, and this is the tune that plays as you come in. And I should mention that it is Yuzo Koshiro and Mieko Ishikawa,
Yes.
composers.
You got them. They went on to be huge names in video game
They did, they really
composition,
did.
but this was when they were just starting out.
That is main dungeon theme from Legacy of the Wizard, and I have a lot to talk about. So let's get
Let's go
get
for it.
First of all, I just love the melody of this tune. It seems for me to sound medieval in a way, which is very interesting because it kind of helps to mirror what you're seeing in the game. As you go down in that dungeon the first time, I love like the architectural touches in the backgrounds. There are a lot of towers,
Oh,
a lot of
like
little
pillars
crenellations and pillars and things like that. And there's something about the sound of this tune which I have to think they thought about when they composed songs like this. I'm reminded also like David Wise, when we talked about it before in the Wizards and Warriors games and stuff like that. I don't know what it is. I'm sure they study, hey, how do you compose something that sounds like from medieval times?
Right, yeah.
There must be certain scales that were prevalent at the time.
Yep.
But there's something about this, like that one line. So I'm gonna do a little bit of the old guitar for
Yeah,
this
let's
part,
paint this picture
So
for the listeners here. Ren suddenly has a guitar, an acoustic
Here it
guitar.
is.
He's
Just
brought
appeared
with
on
him.
his
but
lap.
it appears.
Yeah, here it is. He got it out of his inventory, and
From my inventory. yeah.
he's equipped it, and we're ready now.
Just this one line that's in there that's... And it repeats that second time. Just that line alone, for me, sounds medieval. I don't know. I can't put it into words any better than that.
Yeah.
It just sounds like it to me. But the really big idea here is this is in C minor. At the risk of sounding pedantic about this,
Ren's a musician, everybody, an actual musician. So here we go.
just real quick, very basically, just the difference between a major and a minor chord. You have your C major. Sounds happy. Sounds like, hey, we can do this. Hopeful, you know? And then you get the old...
Yeah.
You get the C minor, a little sadder, a little less hopeful. And it's really just the difference between two notes. Bum, bum, and that's it. What I love about this tune is that you go down in the dungeon, like we said before, and it's all it's very dark. You know something's up. Like you just came from the house, everything's fine. Now things aren't so nice.
A little more dire.
Yeah.
Yep.
You have things to do, and it's a little scary. But the part I really want to talk about is when it gets to this. That last note right there, this guy. So it's in C minor. It does not do.
Yeah, it goes major.
It goes major on you.
Yeah.
So that last little flare of like, there's a little bit of hope there.
Yeah.
But that's right where the loop ends too. So it's like, okay, maybe, and then
right back to it.
Yeah.
So I love how that sort of plays on your emotions of, yes, this, and it's the first time you're seeing enemies too. You're getting hit. You don't know what's going on. It's a little dire. It's a little serious. But then it hits you with a little, but you can do it.
I know, that's really nice.
You can do it.
I like
love
that we're
one
getting
note.
music theory right now.
Yeah,
This
well,
is really
you
good.
know, Yuzo, Koshiro, and Mieko Ishikawa both worked on the first two Ys games as well, and their soundtracks are lauded as being really, like, very similar. Like, I think this soundtrack reminds me so much of those two games as well, but for some reason people don't, like, focus on this one for some reason. Like, you think of that pair and you automatically think Ys.
Yeah.
But those soundtracks as well were rife with those little touches that it's like, here's a boss theme, or here's where Adol's like, you know, really in trouble, but there's that little thing of hope.
Yeah.
And like the player might not understand music theory and like why it's happening, but it just keeps them,
But you
maybe I
feel
want to
it.
play this one more time. Maybe this music is telling me something. And it's almost like a subconscious thing. And they knew exactly what they were doing when they wrote stuff like that.
That's the thing that's so neat about music, really, if you want to get really general about it. It's like what you just said. You don't have to know that there's a half-step difference between a major and a minor. When you hear it, you feel it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's something that you feel. And I mean, that's so powerful about music that we all know, you know?
So what I think is really interesting is that you said it sounded medieval to you, and that's the first time I'd ever really thought about that, and I was like, yeah, no, I can kind of see that. I just never thought about it that way. But playing it on the guitar, I heard it so clearly. Like there was something about playing it on an acoustic guitar that sounded more immediately like Gaelic or something than hearing it on the NES. And that was interesting to me how easily that could be changed in my mind just because of the instrument that's being played through it. Yeah.
Well, we were just talking before we went back on air about the bass line, and if you hear it in the song, the bass line is like this droning sort of,
Right.
It's almost like that does not sound medieval, you know, it just sounds like a kind of a video game bass line or something. So yeah, once you transpose it to a different instrument, it just becomes about the melody.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I've always felt about it.
So cool.
Yeah.
I think this was like Yuzo Koshiro's first soundtrack, so I kind of imagine him doing the bass line. He's just like do 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 do. And then Mieko Ishikawa was like, I'm gonna put all this great stuff over your bass
these
line.
chords over it.
It is a shame.
I want to make you sound great.
It is a shame that you were saying like people know the Ys games more, because I feel like this game, from the multitude of times I've talked about this game, because I'm always lauding it, like, no, play this game, and people play it and they're just like, it sucks, I don't know what to do, and whatever.
Yeah.
And doesn't that just hurt your feelings when someone does it about a game that you love? It's like, just try.
That was my Maniac Mansion. Yep.
You love it, or you hate
I love it.
Okay.
And I've tried to get other people into it, and they're like, I don't even know what I'm doing.
Oh,
I
really?
totally
So
understand.
interesting. Oh, I'm going to have to think about what mine is. That's really cool.
But I wonder if they don't get recognized for this work because of the game's reputation of being like, oh,
Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah, that's
you know,
true.
which
Definitely.
is very sad. Very sad.
So you want to move on to our next track?
I do. I truly do. The next track is going to be, so as I said, these are sort of broken up. The whole area of the dungeon is broken up into the different areas that correspond to the family members, more or less. So, you know, certain items are used by certain people, and some others can't use certain items, so they become their areas, basically. The first one we're going to hear is the father, whose name is Zem. So this next tune is going to be his area.
All right, let's hit it.
So that is Zem's theme from Legacy of the Wizard. Emily, you're humming along. Can I just ask you, what does that make you feel, that track?
This track, okay, so this sounds like, I mean, I know it's a father, so I think my knowledge of that is going to affect this, but to me it sounds like a character who understands that they are one of the major players in changing something for the better, so they're feeling the responsibility of what they have to do and understanding that there are people in their care that they have to take care of. And it's kind of like they've decided to do this thing that they understand is going to be difficult, but they sort of have to do it for other people. It's not just
I couldn't put it any better than that. That's fantastic.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
This is the guy in green, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Looks kind of like, I don't know, like a hippie.
Yeah, huge
Long,
mustache.
long
Yeah.
hair, mustache.
Before you start, I just want to ask
Yeah.
a quick question
Shoot.
about these themes.
Mm-hmm.
Are these themes dependent on which character you've chosen, or is it the area itself?
The area.
The area itself. Okay, so it's the character that you need to get through a particular area that has its theme that then kind of becomes... You see why I'm asking?
I do.
That's really interesting. I think that's really
It's a
fascinating.
neat part of it that you can, like, when I see people play it for the first time, I'm always like, why are you there with that person? They're not going to get anything done over there. You know what I mean? So you can take the one person and go somewhere that you really... And the game is so well made, in my opinion, that you can't traverse it very long before you get to a part where you're like, oh, I need this weapon
You're
or
almost
this item.
bottlenecked into one place with a certain character.
Right.
Yeah.
I need to use this item here, and the character I'm playing right now does not use this. So I
That's
must
so
be in the wrong
interesting
part
of luck.
because I'm more used to, in terms of assigning a theme to a character, like in Maniac Mansion. In the NES game, you pick the character and their theme always plays no matter where you are.
Like you literally
Yes,
select their
yes.
face and their theme is playing
Yes.
as soon as you... Yeah.
Yes. What did you feel when you heard that?
I was reminded a lot of Adol's theme from Ys. There's a lot of that kind of repeating a phrase with kind of like that decrescendo da 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 da
Yeah.
ba da 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 da.
Yeah.
Like that's a very Falcom kind of
Yes.
way to compose, and that always makes me feel that they're really trying to drive that phrase home. Like I'll
Yeah.
say it again.
Yeah.
Like you listen to this phrase.
Da-da-da.
Yeah, and it's just a way to like that always makes my ears perk up and like what are they trying to tell me? So I feel like, he's the father figure of the family. He's maybe not necessarily the hero. I know there are some other characters in here that like the story kind of focuses maybe a little more on, but I feel like he's the one who like maybe is bearing the weight of the whole situation on his shoulders.
Yeah.
So this is his like, I might not be the most effective character in this game, but I'm gonna shoulder through and do what I need to do.
Or I might not even make it, but the others might. It's like a Frodo
yeah.
situation.
Oh, man.
Like I got to do this for everyone else.
This is the farthest you've been from the
Shire was
Shire.
saved, yeah,
Yeah.
for everyone, but not for me.
There is a definite, I wrote in my notes, fatherly serious. This tune for me is very like, it's so dad. It's so like, it's on the line now. We've
Yeah.
got to do this. I'm the father, and let's do this. And it's going to be scary. I don't know if we're going to make it. Exactly what you guys are saying. I'm just going to echoing what you're
Got to
saying.
put on
but
a good face for your kids, so they're
Yeah.
not scared.
Yeah.
We've got dungeons to dungeons, so let's dungeon these dungeons.
That's right.
Thank you. Again, so the first dungeon theme, C minor. We're in C minor again, which is
Oh, this is going to be really interesting.
I think it's very interesting. C minor again, and I want to just point out the first chord progression of the song is C minor, B flat, A flat, G. Just keep that in mind because we'll come back to that in a minute. And there's also a really interesting part of this walking line sort of idea. So if we play through the da 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 da. So right there, it's going from, which is the B flat. So you hear that bum, bum, bum right there. You're doing like a little, that's the note, but then he's using G major to hit that thing. We'll come back to that later too. I just love that little bum, bum, bum,
Yep.
which he uses over and over. And again, I interpret that in a way that I'll illustrate later when we get to the daughter's theme. But yeah, a lot of interesting stuff. So we can move on, I think, from there.
Keep that all
Very cool.
inside
Keep that all- yeah.
pocket
I hope
on the
you're taking
afterburner.
notes.
That's right. I know.
So for this...
Get your scratch
See like all the
paper.
podcast listeners on the side of the highway like scribbling that on napkins.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, wait, there's a walking
G
line
minor
in-
to E to... All right.
in Zen's theme. So our next tune is going to be the mother's theme now, whose name is Maina. which I always wanted to be Manya. But then I read it closer and I was like, oh, it's Mana.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just sounds better Mania to me. But it's not.
You're allowed.
It's Mana. So this is the mother's area. Again, another section of the dungeon. And like you were saying before, it's neat. That's how you learn whose section is who, because you can't really traverse any farther. And you're like, oh, this is not this person's. And you got to just... And then you finally find out, oh, I can use this tool and...
So that's really interesting. The game is literally trying to communicate to you through the music which character you're supposed to be. Like, if you know the names of the tracks, then you'll know who's supposed to be in that area. So like that's so interesting. That's like a little hidden hand of cards that you get handed if you are familiar with the music. You
would never think to look up what's the name of this tune that's playing in this area. You know?
How could we have even done that back then?
Well, there wouldn't have been any way to do that back then.
I know.
So you would have had to have just made that mental association, whether it was conscious or subconscious.
Yeah.
Different pieces of music would remind you differently of different things. But just as a little way to kind of, if you haven't played the game before, so Zem is a larger character, slower, very powerful. He can knock out enemies with like one hit, and kind of a stumpy little jump that only goes up like 1 or 2 blocks. So we'll kind of compare him to like what Mana's abilities are. Now, are there any special... Like, I haven't gotten far enough to really use like special items for any of the characters. So are there any special items that Zem can use?
So it basically breaks down to block manipulation. So Zem can use a glove, which is neat because the daughter has to grab the glove for him, and then she gives him the glove, and then he uses the glove.
Okay, this is really sweet.
It's very
Characters are actually helping it. Yeah,
I think we did that.
Cute.
I think I accidentally, I think I started off with the daughter, got the glove, and went back to the... And so he had it, but I didn't even realize what had happened.
I actually retract that. You can use the dad to get the glove, but I always use her to get the glove.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But I think there are areas where there's a certain... Because you can buy things in a shop, too, that are super expensive, or you can find them in the dungeon somewhere, but you have to use a certain person to get to that, and then give it to the other person. So
I love that.
Very cooperative.
Yeah,
very
that's
family-like.
so sweet.
Yeah. So he can use the glove to move the blocks, which is a tricky thing. You have to ride the block sometimes, so the block remains, you move it. The daughter uses the mattock, and if Hungry Gory is listening to this, it's the matok in her language.
Hi, Hungry.
I call it mattock. Hi, Hungry. Which just destroys the block outright. And then the mother uses the crossbow, which flings the block all over the screen, and you hope it ends up in a place where it's still not blocking your progress.
Ah, okay, interesting.
So, and that's it. Yeah. So yes,
neat.
They all have to use different items.
Very cool. All right, so let's hear Mana's theme. We'll be right back.
Bye.
All right, we're back, and that was Mana's theme, the mother's theme from Legacy of the Wizard. And right off the bat, I want to just mention, here we go. Same exact chord progression as Zem's theme.
Oh, so cool.
So right there.
Because they're married.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Again, because I'm always thinking, am I overinterpreting this? But the first time I realized that, I was just playing along with the game. I was like, God, these are so similar, I think. And I picked up my guitar and I was like, those are the same chords.
Yeah.
And at first I was almost kind of like, that's lame. They couldn't think of something else to do or whatever. And then that was the first time I ever thought about dissecting this OST a little bit more.
Yeah.
So that's how I interpret it now. It's like, that's how they're connected. It's like, you hear that starkness and more seriousness in Zem's theme, same chord progression. Now you hear a little more upbeat tune, same chord progression still, more upbeat. It's just more maternal to me. It's more happy. It's a little more optimistic. And then you get to this next part, which is super It's
like a bright sunny day.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's very positive. And again, just conveys that motherly feeling to me. But I love that they're almost the same tunes, at least how they start. but very starkly different in how they make you feel. And also this part again, because now this is now going to connect to how we see the daughter in the next tune. This part I just played for you. There's like a trebly sort of picked part. If you hear it's like you'll see that again coming through in the daughter's theme, and that's how they kind of connect in my brain. So far we've got Zem and Mena connecting through their first chord progression, and as we move on now, we're going to see how the daughter connects to both of them. So again, this is all just a big old happy family, maybe.
I love
really
this.
cool.
Maybe.
You know, we were talking when we weren't on mic about, Ed was sort of saying, well, I mean, sometimes composers are just told, produce this much music, and it just gets put everywhere. But I really want to believe that you're not reading into it, that this was really intended. And if it wasn't intended, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
So
it's serendipity,
Yeah.
I choose to think of it
Your
that way, too.
headcanon is my headcanon.
Okay. It just makes it so much more, even more charming than the game already is for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I wonder, because Yuzo Koshiro is very active on Twitter, and I wonder if he's ever been like interviewed or asked these questions
Can you ask him?
before. It would be
Would you
interesting
want to know
see.
the answer from Koshiro himself?
I don't know, actually, because now I'm thinking he's just like, no.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, no.
He'd be like, interesting. Nope.
We actually composed these for a different game entirely.
Yeah.
All the songs.
There was a
different games.
mix-up in the nursery, and we brought the wrong soundtrack.
It was supposed to
home.
be a
would be-
racing game, and
That'd be so sad.
A medieval dungeon crawling racing game. All right, so we're going to listen to Lil's area, right?
So
the daughter?
now, yep, this is the last theme that we're going to talk about. This is the daughter Lil's area, and we're going to see how there are themes in her song that connect to both the mother and the father.
Awesome. Bye.
Okay, so that was Lil's theme, the daughter from Legacy of the Wizard. Right away, pretty different as it starts off.
Yeah.
Which, again, my overinterpretation tells me she's her own thing. She's a young lady becoming a woman. All right, I don't know about that. But
Who's also a lifeguard.
That's
right, yeah.
The whistle, honestly, is the one thing in this whole OST. It's kind of like, okay.
A little misplaced,
It's a
but
little odd, but starts off not in C minor this time, but don't you worry. Starts off with a G minor. We're going in, it's a very frantic song, a lot more energy, which again, childlike for me. Kind of just kicks it up. So a couple connections I want to make now to the father, to the mom. So we talked about in Zem's case, he had this walking line, he had the right? So now here, in this part with the daughter's thing, we have the and then it kicks in, and then the chorus, boom, hits the C minor. So there is a C minor. I like how it comes in on the chorus. It's kind of like a little ode to my parents. Here's my C minor
Yeah, right.
in the chorus.
here's what I owe my roots to, but this is my real theme.
Exactly. I'm going to start off.
it's like their surname, but it's a chord.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's exactly it. So I really dig that there's that line in there, a little reference to the father's theme, perhaps. And then on the chorus, we hear that high trebly thing again, that super energetic, which I love in the chorus of this theme. It's just a it just pumps you up, even though you're crawling through a dungeon, like shooting things at snakes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
It's just like something that really pumps me up, and I just love to analyze that as here's my mom's accents, here's my dad walking line, the C minor, I got both of them, but on my own thing at the same time.
Yep.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
cool. I love that she hits the ground running. I feel like
yeah,
other
yeah.
tunes have an amp up, and she's just like, damn.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to mention that I don't know what the main character. I don't know if he really is the main character, but I guess the son, right, with the blue.
Yeah.
I don't know what his theme sounds like, but the two women have they have badassery
Yeah,
in the way that the dad
totally.
doesn't. The dad's like tired You know,
A bit, kind of.
Yeah.
I always imagined it more like heavier, like like Black Sabbath is like slower and chuggier, but still powerful.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
he sounds like that to me.
Yeah.
And then
but like the mom had those drum fills,
Yeah,
and now we got
yeah.
this whole like galloping thing
I
going.
think Lil's like the fastest, right? And she can jump super
jumps the
high.
highest,
Oh,
she's the
that's
fastest.
interesting.
So I
Yeah.
think that this song really kind of feels like that. It's
Can
just
we
bountiful.
overinterpret that the galloping bass is because she's the fastest, like
yes,
a
we
horse?
can.
Sure.
Okay,
yes,
great.
we can.
Absolutely.
You know,
Done.
it's really funny. Well, one, she's my favorite for that reason. I love her little pigtail. She's adorable.
Mm-hmm.
She jumps the highest. She's very useful. But the son actually doesn't have his own theme, which is really
Oh.
interesting. Although if you look at the original OST, I think he does. I think there is an extra track that wasn't used in the game. I think it
Interesting.
might have been his.
Oh.
Although it's kind of weird because he doesn't really have his own territory. But the song's not really that good, actually, which is really... Because I think for me, every track in this game is just dynamite. And then I heard that one, I was like, I see why they didn't put that in there.
Yeah, I'm
'Cause-
giggling because it's sort of like the family's like, yeah, we're just gonna like, you know,
he's all
well,
excited. Mom, look what I wrote. And there's like,
we're just gonna bury that.
He's the one that gets all the credit because he's handsome, where the rest of the family does all the work.
yeah.
he's the worst
exactly.
character. He's the weakest. You can die so easily with him because he's the guy. Once you collect your crowns, you give them to him.
Yeah,
He
see?
goes and gets the sword.
Takes
He's
the credit.
only one that can kill the dragon. So he gets kind of all the credit, and
Called it.
in his song kind
You
of
really did. You really did.
yeah. But all in all, that's Legacy of the Wizard and a couple songs that I love, and there are more. I really encourage anyone to play this game thoroughly. The music is so fantastic, and I'm sure if I had the time, I could sit down and write and find a lot more little kind of connections
Intricacies
through the music.
and- yeah.
Through the music.
Cool.
So cool. Oh man, I loved so this was, can we just point out, this is the first episode where we have a live instrument.
Yes.
I mean, I guess the kazoos technically were number one, but
It's all
but
the same
guitar
episode,
number
so-
two. It is all the same episode. So
Yeah.
here we go. So you did it.
I did it.
You
I
did it.
That was fun. Yeah.
And thank you for putting the effort into like dissecting all that stuff. I know you probably did that for fun on your own.
You
but
should
it's
scan
really
this.
it's really cool to share it.
Take a picture of this or something, and we'll
Yeah.
put this up somewhere.
I've got my notes.
Yeah, that would be very cool. You
Absolutely.
take a picture of it.
My total
sure.
pleasure.
Awesome. All right, so I'm gonna kick things up a notch.
Yeah, what are you bringing
A
to the
little
table?
bit. So, like I said at the beginning of the show, maybe some games from some series that you're very familiar with, but from a game and a soundtrack that you might not be familiar with. A recent passion for me has been running modern arcade games on my home computer, especially racing games, things like Initial D and Wagner Midnight series. Lots of racing games because I got that racing steering wheel mostly for like playing Truck Simulator and stuff, which is one of my other passions. But the good thing about that is I can also play all these really cool arcade racing games that are being released now to the public. And so we're going to listen to some music from Mario Kart Arcade GP DX. This was actually developed by Bandai Namco and released by Nintendo in arcades only. And the cool thing about it is that the game runs on PC hardware. So people have copied the code from the hard drives in these arcade machines and modified it so that you can run it at home. And normally people would actually be like controlling it with their keyboard or with an Xbox controller, and that doesn't feel like an arcade game. So when you're playing it at home on a racing steering wheel, the steering wheel's jerking back and forth when you're getting hit by enemies and stuff. It really kind of like makes it feel like you're in a real arcade. So I've been having a lot of fun with it. The music is absolutely incredible. There's a huge team of composers behind it. We're talking about Katsuro Tajima, Junichi Nakatsuru, Akitaka Toyama, Hiroshi Okubo, Hiroyuki Kawada, Ryo Watanabe, Tako Inoue, Iriko Sakurai, Takafumi Sato, Setsuo Sakamoto, and Yoshihiro Yano. And so
One take.
Wow.
You did it, folks.
Wow.
Yes.
That meant everything.
some of those composers you might have recognized from other modern Nintendo games, and some are kind of new. So we're going to start off with Cup Select, and this plays while you are kind of going through your menus, searching for your proper difficulty level, and you might hear some interesting callbacks to previous Mario games in this one. So let's hit it.
Bye.
All right, that was the menu theme, aka Get Ready to Race from Mario Kart GP DX Arcade. Pretty good stuff.
Pretty nostalgic.
Yeah. Well, this really amps you up. And I love that it's the Mario World theme and they didn't resort to the generic Super Mario Brothers
true,
theme.
yeah.
Yes.
I think that's kind of like overdone nowadays.
And it wouldn't really fit. This one really is a driving tune.
Yeah.
And I mean driving not in the sense of driving a car,
Literally.
but there we go. There we go.
Pun not intended. This is just perfect for like everybody sitting down in the seats, like picking their stuff, and there's kind of like a countdown to like, so all these arcade machines are supposed to be linked together, and everybody's racing against each other. The way the arcade machine is set up is each one has a camera over the screen, and it like videos your face while you're racing, and so the other racers can see your face like over your cart as you're racing around.
That's who I must destroy.
Exactly, yes.
Exactly.
I hate that guy.
And as you raise in the ranks in this game, you can like costume yourself. You can put little like filters and frames on your face. So I feel like the crowd cheering in the background, and usually these games are like in a huge arena, and people like will be watching everybody play. Sometimes there's even lines like forming so that people can take turns to play Mario Kart.
Yep.
And this really brings home that feeling of like I'm in the hot seat, people are watching me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The race is starting. The music has like crowds stomping and clapping to the Mario theme. I really love how this is perfectly formulated to amp you up as you're starting the race.
A lot of energy, for sure.
What I love about it is that, so if you're thinking about it in terms of you're the player, so you're getting ready in your car to race, so you're hearing this crowd around you, which is my favorite part of the song. I think that's really cool. They're chanting along, but even the melody is like very far back, so it almost sounds like as if you were a football player and you can hear like the marching band in the stands and like the stands cheering and stomping along to like the different little tunes that you have to do. But that it's kind of creating that atmosphere of like everybody's getting amped up in a stadium around you, but you are the player, and so you're like set apart from it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that whole Luigi thing with being outside of the room with the concert going on, and then you go inside. And I just thought that was really cool because that's something that happens at sporting events. Is the crowd is like doing their own musical thing while the athletes are like getting ready to go. So that's fun. I like thinking about that. I've never thought about getting my car ready for Mario Kart as being the prelude to a sporting event, and everyone's there already, and they're like already kind of losing their minds.
Yeah. Well, one of the cool things about this arcade game in particular is that some of the games made by Namco Bandai have these little like memory cards, or like credit cards almost. They're called Bana Pass cards, and every arcade machine has like a NFC tag reader on it, so you get your card from the attendant, you kind of register it to your name, you slap it on the NFC reader, and it saves your progress. So as you go through this arcade game, you unlock new carts, new characters, new items, and then when you leave the game, you just tap it again, it saves your progress, you come back 3 days later, put it back on there, you start from where you left off. And there's like 200 different items and like a slew of different carts. There's so much stuff to do in this game. So it's a good way for Nintendo to make money because I'm sure they're charging probably a couple of bucks per race for this game. But for somebody like me who's playing it at home, it's not like I'm starting from scratch every single time I boot the game up. I can save my progress, and it almost feels like a home console game with all these flourishes and extra like crazy intense stuff that comes along with the arcade experience. So any other thoughts before we move on to our next track?
I would just piggyback on what you said. Being in that head of the racer, it's really a neat way to amp up a little bit of that intensity too, like the beginning of the race. Like, it's a fun game, and if you think about it, but you're just in your car all alone, and those thoughts that you're having, like, okay, we're about to race.
Yeah.
Stay cool.
It's a fun game, obviously, but it also kind of amps it up, which is I don't know if they meant to do it like that, but it does work in that way.
Yeah, it's putting the pressure on you. It's not,
right.
What I want to know, and what I would hope, is that you were describing the actual arcade scene where people would be ringed around.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I want, please make it real that the people around watching the game will actually do the chants with this menu music while people are getting ready. Please make that real. I would love that so much.
I'm sure somebody's coordinated it somewhere. There's this announcer that like constantly vocalizes what's going on in the race as you're going through it. And when Nintendo of Japan first launched this game, they had this huge party at an arcade for the unveiling of this, and they had the voice actor who does the announcements live, like announcing the races, commentating on the races people were doing it. And still sometimes, like in Japanese arcades, you can walk in and see like a Mario Kart Arcade GP with a live announcer like dictating what's going on as you're racing.
I love that Nintendo's thinking about that. They always come up with these really interesting ways to sort of blur your experience as a player with your experience as a character in the game. All these little subtle ways to make the universe real around you.
Yeah, for sure.
Make the immersion more strong.
Yeah, exactly. That's so cool. That announcer thing, so cool.
All right, so next track we're going to listen to is from Peach's Castle stage. This is kind of like the introductory cup that you play when you start playing the arcade game. And for each of the next 2 tracks, we're going to play... so the song, just like any Mario Kart game, they kind of intensify it for the final lap. So we'll play Peach's Castle and Peach's Castle Final Lap and maybe of compare and contrast how they make it sound a little more intense. So we'll be right back.
Bye.
Welcome back. That was Peach's Castle from Mario Kart Arcade GP DX.
Whoa!
Composed by a whole bunch of composers. Probably not all at once.
What's their names again? Just kidding.
From Katsuro Tajima to Yoshihito Yano.
Okay.
And everybody in between.
Yep.
Yeah. Great little track. I didn't even realize it at first, but you guys picked out that it does follow the athletic theme from Super Mario World, but in more of a kind of a simplified like chord progression way instead of following the actual melody, which is really cool.
Definitely referential, I would say.
Yeah.
And it kind of keeps that Mario Kart feel at the same time. And then when it speeds up, it really doesn't do too much to change how the song sounds, I think. I think it just goes up like a half step and then speeds up a little bit.
Changes keys, speeds up, and then you get that...
the thwomping.
The thwomping for thing. Yeah.
I like that. So what happens in the game, as I was explaining to you guys while we were listening to it, is if in a multiplayer situation, once the first player crosses the finish line on the last lap, the rest of the players get kind of like a countdown bomb on the like they have to finish the race in time. Basically, it just means that, you know, if somebody's just like sitting or spinning in circles, or you got a 3-year-old who's just kind of wiggling the steering wheel back and forth, the race will end eventually. It's not going to like keep going until the last person finishes. So I think once that first place winner is crowned, then the rest of the players have a limited amount of time to get through, and that's where that kind of kicks in. So I don't know, I really like this one. In this particular track, you're kind of outside the castle grounds. It looks kind of like Mario World. You've got those kind of oval, like elongated mountains in the background, and then you kind of like fly or drive into the castle and around.
It's the castle from N64, right? With the stained glass. Were we looking at this earlier?
Yeah, it's very N64-ish. They kind of use that in other games as well.
Yeah,
I think
they
it
do.
comes back in Odyssey.
It does, because it's
the
great.
on the wall, right?
Yeah, there's a stained glass image of the silhouette of Peach that kind of gets reused.
Yeah, I think Mario 64 was the first one to really use that, but it's very reminiscent. The graphics are excellent in this game. It's all 60 frames per second, as you would expect. Came out in 2013, so it was kind of like Wii U era, but it's running on, high-grade PC hardware, so it's a little bit higher resolution. But it's fun. It's super intense. Like, you have all of these items. You get to pick 3 of your favorite items from the ones that you've unlocked before each race. And so when you run over these question mark blocks, you can only get 1 of 3 items. And you can pick from like a special item, a defense item, or an offense item. And so you have to kind of balance which ones you want to be able to shoot behind you, which ones you want to attack in front of you, and which ones might kind of defend or have some sort of a special effect. And you really have to, because these enemies do not let up.
And they choose their own weapons, right?
They have their own weapons, yeah. And sometimes you'll find that they're using a particular weapon more than others, and that just coincidentally happens to be the weapon that you unlock if you win that, race. Actually, it's not if you win the race, it's if you collect enough Mario coins. So there's Mario coins all over the track. Every 50 Mario coins you get this little robot Yoshi who sits in an egg, and he swallows all the coins, and then you get this kind of
You get a capsule toy.
Yeah, you get a capsule toy, basically. It's a Yoshi egg.
Yep.
And depending on the color of the Yoshi egg, you get either a new cart, a new character, a different colored cart, or an offensive, a defensive, or a special weapon. So it keeps you kind of coming back, because you're always earning these coins, and you're like, oh no, I'm 5 away from getting a new item. I gotta play one more race.
Exactly.
So it's kind of fun like that, and there's so many different items, and you can power up your items as you go. There's like 200 different items you can get. I've been playing this game for hours and hours and hours, really enjoying it, and I still haven't unlocked everything there is to unlock. I still have a ton more carts. I've got all the player characters, fortunately, but I'm still working on
That's so much
carts
fun,
and
though,
items.
because you can do that at your own pace.
Yeah.
You could really draw this experience out.
Exactly, which is kind of what I'm doing. And then there's another mode, which I'll get to when we play the last track, that kind of adds on to the whole traditional Mario Cup, start 50cc, 100cc, 150, and then you get 150 mirror, so that they get more and more difficult as you go on. So, anyways, we're going to move on to our next...
Oh, wait, before we move on, how dare you?
Sorry.
No, so something I was thinking about, because we were talking Legacy of the Wizard so much about how the songs may have been composed in ways to kind of indicate things about the personalities of the characters and the relationships among. This was a really interesting track for Peach and the castle. It was so irreverent and quirky, and I was expecting something maybe more regal or more intense or something. It was very sort of playful.
Yeah.
Great thought.
I think from an arcade, I think arcade games have a very different perspective on presentation than your standard home console game. And I think as a first track, first level newcomer to the game, right after listening to that bombastic, get ready to racetrack that we just listened to, they're going to have to keep that level of excitement up. And this is one of the more simple tracks. You just kind of go over some hills, you go around a couple corners. There's nothing crazy like what might come up in some of the other tracks in the game.
Sure.
So I think that they're keeping that level of intensity with the music up to make the game feel a little more exciting.
That's a really interesting thought, because from you're talking about the difference between console and arcade, I don't think I've ever really thought about the fact that the arcade has to make your money by keeping you engaged.
Yeah.
Whereas when you buy a game, you've got it. They've made their money, so they don't care if you play it for 2 minutes or if you play it for 2 years.
Yeah.
But in the arcade, they need to keep you constantly coming back immediately.
It's surrounded by a bunch of other machines that are trying to do the same thing.
That's right. So you got to be like
they're all yelling at you the loudest.
Yeah, exactly. You got to be that. What was it? The Rygar 2 cabinet? I can't think of what the name of the cabinet was. Listeners, if you recall, there was a cabinet that several of you said was always the loudest one in an arcade. I'm going to have to think about what it was.
Oh, I remember that conversation, but I don't remember the game.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we'll have to come back to it.
Yeah, we'll have to come back to it.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, so this one's trying to be the quirkiest, most fun one that you can hear.
Yeah,
So you want to approach it from the other side of the room, through all the gunfire noise.
Exactly. Speaking of gunfire noise, we're going to be listening to Aerial Road next, and this is the track that takes place in the clouds amongst a whole bunch of Bowser airships that are firing artillery at each other. So let's give it a listen. Welcome back. That was Aerial Road from Mario Kart Arcade GP DX for the arcades here on NPR.
I was going to say, it's quite the smooth radio voice for that track.
It doesn't really match the track
No,
at all.
not at all.
No.
You went very NPR. on
Yeah. But Tim, you called it Pac-Man. I didn't
Yeah.
even realize it at first. And you're like, hey, that's Pac-Man. And I was like, hey, you're totally right.
Nice.
Boom.
Yeah, so-
The sound of that
Yep.
sounded very much like the original Pac-Man.
And that
arcade.
bass breakdown, for sure.
Mhm.
Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. So, yeah, you might have subconsciously caught on that Bandai Namco made this game. Pac-Man is a unlockable character that you can race as in the game. There aren't any Pac-Man themed stages, so it's really interesting that they chose a Bowser airship cloud
Yes.
track for a Pac-Man themed song to play in the background. Now, this is a big disconnect between the music, which is kind of why I picked this one. I was like, maybe we could figure out why they play this song in something that like Mars Bringer of War, should be playing in the background.
So I was watching Ed play this earlier today, and I was looking at all the stuff going on in the background. I said, "Hey, those are the airships from Mario 3. How cool!" And then I started kazooing that theme while you were playing.
Yeah.
So just like the over that. But yeah, so I think that kind of really answers the question about the Peach Castle theme. I don't necessarily think they were trying to always compose at all to the atmosphere.
Yeah.
They just had a good jam, and they put it there.
It might even be possible that they were working on a Pac-Man themed track and it got
True.
scrapped somehow. So they were like, well, we don't have an aerial road theme. Why don't we just use this one instead? The last lap theme doesn't really even do much. It doesn't even pump it up
Speeds up.
at all. It just kind of speeds up. So I don't know. This is one of the more complex stages. You go over a lot of different jumps. There is some paragliding in this, so kind of similar to like Mario Kart 8, where you'll be launched into the air and you'll get like a little parachute, or not a parachute, but like a paraglide sail behind you. So you get some aerial stuff going on. There are some other levels that go underwater, kind of similar to Mario Kart 8. I think this came out before Mario Kart 8 or alongside Mario Kart 8, so they took a lot of what 8 kind of added to the Mario Kart mix and kind of expanded upon it and made it a little more intense. And the tracks are wider but shorter. So there's a lot of room for side-by-side battle, and I think this game concentrates a lot more on fighting your other karts as opposed to necessarily having more driving prowess.
Yeah, totally.
There aren't as many like really horrible like blue shell incidents where you're like in first place and then suddenly get
Gets
knocked
ripped
back in
away
the
from
last. Yeah, it really feels like there's more of a push and pull between the other players that you're playing against. They kind of even that out for a more kind of a fun arcade experience. I think they made this so anybody, not even necessarily people who were good at Mario Kart, can kind of jump in and start having a lot of fun with
Do
it.
you think that's a consideration of it being an arcade game?
Yeah, I think so. I think that just other people they obviously want to take your money, so they're going to show people having a good time and being good at the game, so that other people might want to jump in and be like, hey, that looks easy, I think I can do that, and kind of jump in and have fun themselves.
Yeah, and I think the customizing of the item drops you get is probably responsible for a lot of that. Because if you know you're not good at this, you can compensate for that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you're not all just sharing the same items, and then someone gets the blue shell, and it's like, all right, they're the one who's going to win.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't get the lucky drop.
Right.
So.
And the way that they formulated the controls is pretty cool, too, because you use the brake pedal as your kind of like jump drift button. So you play the entire time with one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake, and when you go around a corner, you have to like stomp the brake really fast, keeping your foot on the gas pedal so that you jump into the drift. And then the farther you drift, you'll see a meter go up next to your car, 1, 2, 3. When it hits 3, you get your biggest boost, but you can get slider boosts by filling it up. So it really, I guess, kind of makes it easier. You don't have to worry about like shoulder buttons or buttons all over the steering wheel to kind of like do all that stuff. If you drive a car, you can kind of understand what you're doing. And then there's just the one button that you have for firing your items and stuff, so they keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
There's this one other mode in the game called National Battle, which was added actually after the game came out. And in Japan, it's a mode where you can race against people with their own kind of like passport accounts all over the country. And you get this big map of Japan, and your mission is to conquer all the areas of Japan and all the people that race in those areas. And the menu screen while you're choosing your area of Japan I thought was really, really cool. So I'm going to share that one as well. So we'll listen to that one. We'll be right back. All right, that was National Battle from Mario Kart Arcade GP DX for the arcades. That came out in 2013. Key's favorite song of at least Mario Kart, I think.
Jam. I mean, I kind of feel like Boss DJ Phantasmagoria might take the cake.
Oh, okay. That was excellent.
I really love that one.
Excellent.
But this one, so good.
These songs kind of pair well together.
They
I
do.
think, too.
Yeah, they
Very
do.
funky.
Yes.
When you are selecting your area of Japan to compete in, it's like there's this like wavy checkerboard flag background, and then there's flames coming up from the bottom of the screen for some unknown reason. Like it doesn't belong, but it feels like it fits with this track really, really well. It's just like this burning jazz funk track.
So much funk in this whole soundtrack, I feel like.
And that's the way Mario Kart has been lately. I mean, Mario Kart 8 had this fantastic live jazz and funk and all sorts of really, really good live instrumentation soundtrack. They really kind of went for that live sound.
So interesting.
Yeah.
If I heard this across the room, I would cross the room and see what was going on with that arcade cabinet.
Hey, who is selecting Kyoto this time?
Yeah, exactly.
It's fun. So you go up in level. You start off very simple. You only get 4 tracks to choose from, and as you conquer more areas of Japan, you start raising your rank. And then you get more and more levels to choose from. The tracks get a little more difficult, but you get more experience for beating them. It's like this whole quasi kind of RPG-esque experience within this Mario Kart arcade game. It's like completely out of left field. Right. They added this, like I said, in after the fact. So just the original cups were what came out first. And modern arcade games nowadays are internet aware. You can actually hook them up to the internet and they will download new versions and updates and DLC. Wow. So you can walk into an arcade one day and all of a sudden you'll just have this extra content that wasn't there before, which is really cool.
I wanted to talk about that, so I'm glad we are talking about that we live in the future. Just when you said, well, first of all, just the idea that an arcade cabinet is running on Windows, it makes so much sense, but I would never think of that as being a real thing, just as you might not think about your ATM being a Windows-based thing, you know? So that kind of blows my mind. And then for you to say, oh yeah, they added something that you could actually download and update an arcade game also just feels like we live in a different time, folks.
It's crazy. It doesn't make any financial sense to make custom hardware and motherboards for arcade games anymore when computers are perfectly capable of running this stuff. So I guess,
I do wonder if there are arcades that, because they could potentially update something that a player would miss. So I wonder if there are arcades that would kind of advertise oh, we have this update. We have version 1.6.
The older version.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, I know with fighting games they do that.
That's
a
true.
lot. Like Street Fighter patches stuff in and out, and sometimes you can't upload their data unless it's the latest version. It's kind of the way that these companies will quality control their stuff. So just like at home, if something's patched out, you have to be on that latest version to take advantage of all the online features. So who knows?
That feels kind of, I like the idea of the flexibility, but, growing up the way we did, that feels almost inherently wrong. Like, sometimes I get sad when a game that I have at home gets patched and changed, but I would expect an arcade system to stay more the same.
It feels
than my
like
home system. It feels like, what's static anymore? What can I believe in?
It
Right,
always
right.
should be that thing that you experienced when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Right.
And even though you get older, it should always stay the same.
You're so old.
It's the times that are changing.
It's true.
It's true, and we're staying the same.
Yep.
Logan, there's some other cool arcade games that we play on the computer, right? What do we play? By the way, welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back, Logan.
Welcome back, Logan.
What else have we been playing? So there's this application called Techno Parrot, which is kind of a strange name.
I love it.
But it's this kind of, I don't know, these guys that are kind of helping to adapt all of these arcade games for home PC use.
Oh, that's cool.
And, these games are like 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. So, like, a lot of them are no longer in the arcades anymore. So it's not like we're, like, pirating to the fact that they're going to lose money or anything. But there's some... So, I don't know if you guys have been in the arcades and saw any games from this company called Raw Thrills. They do, like, the Fast and Furious. Usually, if you see, like, a modern sit-down driving arcade game, it's by this company. It's like they're the only company left in the U.S. that's still making,
I've seen some of Monkey Joe's.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's like a one on a motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah. There's I think it's called Fast and Furious Super Bikes or something like that.
Yeah, and also there's a Jurassic Park game.
Yep, they make that one too.
Yep.
Nice.
And they make like a Batman racing game and a bunch of cool ones. They're like I was gonna say, the only like American company left making true arcade games, like video games. Like everything else is like a ticket game or a skee ball or just something that you can like throw your quarters in and get tickets back.
Train game.
Yeah, so these guys are still out there making real amusement games, which is very cool, and a lot of them are very cool to play. They've actually just released, I think they did a Ninja Turtles arcade game.
I've played
recently.
that. I was gonna say the only modern one I've played is a Ninja Turtle arcade cabinet with a big button you have to smash for your special.
Yeah.
That was
And
fun.
also,
I had that. I played that
also
too, actually.
H2 Overdrive.
H2 Overdrive, which was kind of like a spiritual sequel to, what was it? Hydro Thunder? If you guys remember that arcade game, PlayStation game. It's very similar to that. And Raw Thrills made that Turtles game, so it's the same guys. Tons of cool stuff. There's this one game called Dirty Driving, which Logan and I love to play. And it's like Twisted Metal meets like Need for Speed meets all this stuff. Crazy weapons-based awesome game with like Rob Zombie as the soundtrack to it, so it's pretty intense. So anyways, playing a lot of that and having a lot of fun, and Mario Kart Arcade GP DX is one of those games that we're playing in that. It's just games that we both enjoy, right? Hanging out and playing together. Mm-hmm. Pretty fun, huh?
Yeah.
All right, so what's coming up next, Logan, on our show? I know we're going pretty long tonight, but this is going to be fun, I promise.
We've got the kazoos. And you did not put it up there.
Well, it doesn't need to be on the schedule. We know what's going on.
I do not remember the song.
Oh, man. Well, you remember Tetris A, right?
Oh yeah, you'll remember him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That.
So, I don't know.
First,
How
I
are we
think
going to
we
do
need
this?
to explain where these kazoos come from, right? There is a reason. This
Well, they come
wasn't
from
just
kazoo mommy and daddies, right?
Well, that is true. But the ReNesance, you want to take this away?
Well,
There's deep lore.
Because it's fun.
there is some lore. So the whole idea came from Key, actually.
Oh, really?
She, on her streams, at the end of her streams, would do a cooldown session. And she would put on like a Windows background with the pipes and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And after she played whatever game she was playing, she would just take requests for different music people wanted to hear. 8-bit, 16-bit, whatever. People would be like, I want to hear Life Force, the third level. And she would play it, and they would just talk. Not even about the game, just talk about life. And I was like, that's such a cool idea, the little cooldown. And of course, we all love the music from games and stuff like that. So one night I was just thinking, I love games. I love like guessing games and I'd actually been thinking about doing like a video to put on the channel about that sort of thing. And then it just kind of clicked together. I was like, why don't I just play them on the stream, on live? And the kazoo just seemed like a natural choice because it's ridiculous. It's just completely silly and dumb, and it sounds so dumb. But I remember playing with them when I was a kid, and I was like, they always cracked me up. So I went out, bought some kazoos, and named that kazoo and was born.
Name
That's
that
awesome.
kazoo. And so for those listeners out there who are familiar with Name That Tune that the Legacy Music Hour does and all of that, it's a guessing game of Name the Tune, but it is supplied by Ren on kazoo.
Yeah, and it's just NES tunes because that's all I know, pretty much. But it does make it easier because at least it keeps it to one console. And yeah, you listen in, and if you know the game the tune comes from, you put it in the chat. First person to get it in my chat gets the point, and first to 3 wins.
Full names, no abbreviations. There are rules.
Yes,
Awesome.
there are definite rules. No SMB3.
I'm sorry.
If I was there, if I was there, I'd probably have composer and date information.
Yeah.
That's true. I know, but could you type it fast enough?
Some
Probably
people
not.
do that.
Yeah.
They have to, like, Mario, Mega Man 2. That's the Bubble Man theme. Oh, okay, you got it.
Catch you to
You
touch
get the
you.
point. You get the point.
But this also happens on a specific night, almost at the same time, right? So if anyone wants to
much.
tune in for this,
Tune in.
Tune in.
Tune in.
Kazoo.
tune in.
Tuesday nights on the Tuesday night streams, usually around midnight Eastern Standard. Usually, because I usually start up around 10:30, something like that.
Yep.
My
So,
bedtime.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a little late, but
East
Cool.
Coast time.
yeah. East
Awesome.
Coast.
All right, so we're gonna attempt some Tetris.
Yeah.
All right. Ready?
3, 2, 1, and... Silly.
I think that went pretty well.
That was gorgeous.
Sorry, listeners, if your ears have completely blown off. I think, do we have time for one more?
Yeah, let's do
I
another
think we've
one.
got time
I
for one
thought we
more.
were doing 4.
Well, I think we're running out of time.
That can maybe
No,
be
we're not.
extra content sometime for the Patreon.
Yeah, maybe we can do some later on. Maybe Logan and I can do a dual kazoo.
There you go.
Ooh, I like
Kazoo
that.
duel.
Kazoo duel.
That would be fun. All right, so what are we going to do?
Doo-doo.
What do we have? A vein is gonna explode in Ren's head. Yay! Good job holding down that bass line.
Nice job, Logan. You were on tune and on time. Very good.
Gorgeous.
So that was Green Greens from Kirby's All-Star, in case you didn't realize. We've still got some remnants of kazooing going on here. All right. I think we're ready to wrap the show up. It's getting very, very late. Some of our hosts are past their bedtime,
Yes,
including
perhaps more than one.
including Keyglyph and Logan. Maybe yours truly. All right, so wrapping the show up. Tim, thank you so much for coming on, dude.
Thank
This was
you.
amazing.
Thank you so much for having me.
This was the most random hodgepodge show, but it was like just so much fun to sit and
fantastic.
chat.
And the best ever.
I hope the listeners had a blast as well, hanging in with us for another extra long show. So, ironically, I was just on Discord talking with some of my listeners not too long ago, asking, just feedback for the show, what I could do, and most of them were saying, well, your shows could be a little shorter. They're a little long sometimes. And here I am completely throwing that in everybody's face. But
Sorry.
So I think going
Sorry,
forward,
bros.
if anybody is still listening to us at this point, we're going to kind of maybe notch down from 12 songs to 10 songs as our default. I know this was like a 16-song episode, but
Yeah.
so maybe we'll get a little bit shorter in the long run, and we'll see how that goes. And if you guys want more music, then let me know, and we'll put more music. So
Yeah, this is the last
it'll be ebb
long-winded
and flow.
hurrah, I guess.
Exactly. We're kazooing ourselves out.
That's right.
What a way to go out.
That's right.
Yes, exactly. So, Tim, once again, where can we find you on the internet and all your glorious artistic beauteous?
Thank you. Well, my website is gamescapeartist.com. That's where you can see all my art. You can check me out on Etsy, etsy.com/shop/gamescapeartist.
Awesome.
And then on Twitch, I'm just the ReNesance, and the same on YouTube, my channel.
Very cool. And again, we'll have all that stuff in the show notes. Emily, where are you hanging out on the web nowadays?
Where am I hanging out right now? I'm not doing a whole lot at this very moment, but I have been streaming a lot lately. So if you want to watch me play some video games or do some of the chiptune listening after party stuff, you can check me out on twitch.tv/Keyglyph. One day I'm trying to get to the Galactic Center in No Man's Sky in permadeath. So
Awesome.
if you want to join me for that high stakes game, please do that.
Do it.
But not streaming at present, really, at the moment, just focusing on the mixtapes for the Legacy Music Hour. And this month we are going to hit the halfway point. So we will be releasing mixtape 110 and episode 220 just came out this month, so we've
Awesome.
made it
Excellent
halfway.
work. Thank you
Well done.
for all your hard work.
Thank you.
on
So now we're just
LMH.
crawling our way towards catching up, and then who knows what's going to happen.
Excellent. Well, we'll have a nice archive of all the music from Legacy Music Hour. So, as always, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/The VG Embassy, at Twitter at The VG Embassy, on Instagram at The VG Embassy, or head to thevgembassy.com, and from there you can jump off to our Discord group. There will be a permanent invite in the widget section on the side of the page. You can also visit our Patreon at the side of the page, or go to patreon.com/The VG Embassy, where you can check out how you can contribute to the show and possibly take part in it. And speaking of Patreon and Patreon patrons, I'd like to thank my Patreon patrons, as usual, at the Taurus level: Cameron Childs, aka Bruce Irons of the Mad Gear Band; Michael Bridgewater from Forever Sound Version VGM Podcast; Donovan Orofino; Chris Murray; Bedroth, and newcomer Muddle Madness; our VG emissaries: Chris Myers, John Jekyll, aka Mix Master; Ben the Dyad Dishman from the Dyad Presents a VGM Podcast; Chris Steenerson from the VG Jam Podcast; Jordan Worma from the Table to Stage Podcast; Volt Supreme; and David Parrish. Our audio attaché members: Cameron Worma, Carlos from the Heroes 3 Podcast, Scott McElhone, and Dan Lawton. Speaking of which, that reminds me, there will be some new blind listens showing up from our audio attaché members very, very soon, with some very cool guests. I'm very happy to have them on the show soon. And as usual, our VG ambassador, the patron saint of VGM podcasts, Alex the Messenger from the Messenger Presents a VGM Journey podcast.
I
Once
just
again,
love how many of these names now have from the blank podcast.
Yes,
after them.
I
Everyone
was-
has just, you're just growing up in front of our eyes.
I was just talking about
blossoming
that.
into these beautiful podcasts.
so many new VGM podcasts out there, and so happy to be part of a huge and growing community, along with one of our youngest VG ambassadors, who may have his own VGM podcast one day, talking about PlayStation 7 music.
Oh my gosh.
What the flip is that?
It's the future, Logan.
It's the future.
Yeah, but it's not coming out right now.
No, it's not.
No, I'm saying
When
when
you're our
you're a
age.
grown up, when you're my age, you might have your own VGM podcast, and
I
you
mean, there
be,
might be a PlayStation 7.
That's what I mean. They might be up to PlayStation 7 by then, and you might be talking about music from it in the future, not right now.
From Luigi's Mansion 52.
Yeah. Anyways, so we will see you again in another 2 weeks for another amazing episode of the VG Embassy. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See ya!